You don't beard, so you can't shave and then go back in.
What's that?
You need to grow your beard out so you can shave and then go back in.
Okay. Is that how you
Did
do
it in
it?
Gangs of New York?
So that gets you 2? Or actually, you could shave John and get a goatee. That'll give you the second one, then shave it all off. That'll give you 3 votes, right?
Mustache.
Yeah, 3 or 4 votes.
I still haven't gone to your barber yet, but it's on my list of things to do. Your barber shop, Kings.
Oh, yeah. So they changed names. I don't know why.
Did they?
Yeah, they're called Hometown Barber now. Same guy, but they
I
changed names.
noticed.
They must have sold.
Is it right at the Rotary? No?
But the one in Westboro is, but there's one right here.
Oh, yes. Oh, they changed names already here?
Yeah.
Are we ready anytime?
Oh, that clock's a couple minutes slow. Hi, Amy.
It might be a bigger crowd, it was hard to park. So I only
I'll turn my volume down.
7 minutes.
I don't want to be that guy. Although I did leave here one time and it was vibrating like crazy. I think I turned my vibrations off too.
Hi, all set? Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Hopkinton Planning Board meeting for February 24th. I'll start by entertaining a motion to open the public hearings that we have in front of us tonight.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Secondly, I'm going to make a public service announcement. Early voting is a thing now. People can vote during the regular hours at Town Hall. And the primary is, of course, on March 3rd if you choose to wait for that day. And then Gary will be a little bit late because he's cheering on the Hopkinton High School ladies basketball team in the run for the championship. So good luck to the Hellers. All righty. So let's do the administrative items first. John, you want to do the approval not required plan that's been...
The approval not required plan submitted for Stony Brook is being withdrawn. They have a common driveway special permit coming up later in March, and they want to do that at the same time. So they're just going to hold off so that the 21-day period doesn't elapse before they get on for the special permit.
Okay, do we have to take any action, or they have...
To vote to allow to withdraw.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to allow the applicant for the Stony Brook approval not required to withdraw.
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
How about that sidewalk survey update?
So currently, we have 4 paper copies from both the senior center and the library. However, we have 290 online responses.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we have some good results. Haven't gone through it. I just kind of summarized going through, but nothing in detail. And it looks like there's some good responses. So
Did we put an end date? Is it closed at this point?
no, it's still open. We didn't have an official end date, but we figured leave it open for about a month.
Okay, so there is a sidewalk survey out there online and also available in hard copy, so please do fill it out if you would like to help us understand better what the town's priorities are for sidewalks, sidewalk improvements, or sidewalk installations.
I did take it today, the
Nice.
survey. If you take it on your phone, it is a little confusing on the first question because it lists 3 columns and you can't see the 4th column. And it's like,
Yeah,
I got that same feedback from some people.
yeah.
I can't remember how I took it. I must have done it on a laptop because I don't think either that or I did it wrong on the first question. I didn't even know.
You can't because you have to answer them.
got rejected. Oh,
So the first question was tricky because you're supposed to rank them, but Google Forms doesn't have a ranking function.
Right.
So that's actually the official Google way of making a ranking question. So we tried to make it as clear as possible, but I can
I
understand it's a
didn't
little
have any
tricky.
trouble, so.
Other than that, it was fine.
All right, so we should have an update on that at the next meeting, probably, with the results maybe tabulated, or? All right, so we do have one set of minutes, January 13th. Are those the minutes we wrangled about last time, and you had some changes to, Deb?
They're actually not the version that's been updated, so we may have to wait another week on that. We may have to wait another meeting on those.
Can you detail the updates? Because,
I did detail them and I sent them to Stephanie. I don't have them right in front of me.
okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't all have a chance to review them.
So
With the
I think this
updates,
is
so.
gonna push forward.
All right. So then I think I will invite the folks from Maspenock Woods to go ahead and come forward.
Sure, thanks.
Welcome.
Good evening. For the record, Peter Barbarian, and also Bruce Wheeler. Hi. If you recall, the last time we were here, we were also in discussions with the Conservation Commission in the nature of the changes to the site at, or the site at 5 West Elm Street. There's two major areas of kind of wetland jurisdiction. So West Elm Street along the bottom, there's a wetland area that's all in here, and this is the conservation's 50-foot no disturbance line. And then the other significant area is the vernal pool off-site here, and this is the commission's 125-foot vernal pool no disturbance area. I think you have a plan that reflects the existing dwellings kind of right in here. So when we met with the Conservation Commission, they asked us to look at reductions to the impact area, to the areas of jurisdiction, both in the nature of the building itself that we were proposing, as well as the basically the site now up beyond the septic system is all kind of cleared out. So it's all been altered from the viewpoint of the buffer zone for both the wetland area as well as the vernal pool. So they asked us to look at what we can do to kind of, in addition to reduction in house size, restore a lot of the area that has been historically developed within those two jurisdictional areas. So what we did was we moved the house substantially up front. We kept the required under zoning 25-foot setback from the property line, 50-foot from the street. So if this lot were to stand on its own in the district that it's located, it meets the setback requirements. The issue is under your special permit requirements, you're supposed to have 75 feet from property line for dwelling setbacks. Now, 100 feet. You waived that originally with the original approval in the condo units up top, and also to some extent recognizing this. So what we did from the viewpoint of the Conservation Commission, under the existing condition, the house has 850 square feet within the 50-foot no disturbance buffer zone. We reduced the area of that by moving it up so that the only area that's within the 50-foot is that. So we reduced that impact by 29% over what's existing. From the viewpoint of the house construction within the vernal pool area, again, there was a significant area in here. So from the vernal pool area, we reduced the size of the building within the 125-foot vernal pool area by 23%. From the viewpoint of an altered area within the 50-foot building, no disturbance, we reduced that area by a little less than 400 square feet. But the biggest improvement was restoring the budget area here and on the other side, particularly up and back in here from the nature of the vernal pool. So we reduced the area of alteration within the vernal pool area by roughly 1,900 square feet or 21%. So by moving the building up, we cut down on the building within the 50-foot no disturbance in the vernal pool areas. So we just got word last week from the Conservation Commission that they want us to file a whole new notice of intent. We gave them these sets of plans a couple weeks ago. We think we will have that filed by the end of this week with a hearing date sometime in March. So those are the site conditions and the improvements we're making by proposing new construction on this site. And do you want to talk about the architecture, or you want me to? No, you should. Okay. So from the viewpoint of the architecture, we created a new style, being that this is a single unit. All the other, as you know, all the other condo units are duplex units. We had some original meetings with you. We had some original meetings with the design review. We met with the design review 3 or 4 weeks ago. They had some comments in the nature of the sides of the building, which we'll take you through those. But again, this would be all the same materials and styles and everything else that is part of the original development. By reducing the size of the building, the first floor usable area is about 1,000 square feet, which is 300 to 400 square feet less than the other things that have been recently approved for the buildings. The total area is 2,400 square feet. The last numbers that have been approved for the individual units are 2,800 square feet. And the reason it's so much more is because we have created, as you'll see, all usable space above the garage. But this footprint is about 1,000 square feet. So again, we kept all the materials and the design consistent with what we've done. Again, that's the same depiction you just saw. On this doesn't reflect it. One of the items that the design review wanted to do was different materials in here. So this is a different style shingle that's set up than the rest of this to create, again, a second level of alteration. But this would be, as you're coming down West Union Street, that would be the side that you would see.
West Elm.
Yeah, West Union Street is here, so you're coming this way.
West Elm.
West Elm.
I'm sorry?
West
West
Elm
Elm.
Street.
There's
West
no-
Elm, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's my project on Thursday. This is the other side, West Elm. The closest abutter, again, there'll be 25 feet to the property line. There's probably 30 or 40 feet of wooded area to the next abutter on this side. And again, with that 25 feet, we're restoring that and doing some plantings to get that back to the vernal pool area where the house is. This is the back view, very small porch, which we've kept both out of the 50-foot no disturbance as well as out of the vernal pool area. And just at the floor plan, again, main living plate door, two-car garage. Again, this area is about 1,000 square feet. Again, deck just outside of the jurisdictional areas. And where we're able to pick up the square footage is in the nature of the family room over the garage. So that's what it is. Again, we've got a file with the Concom. We'll probably take 2 months to get through that process. We're hopeful and confident that we're doing, seeing that we met both the reduction in the building within the two impact areas, as well as the reduction of the existing alteration within the two jurisdictional areas.
Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Frank.
Can you review the earlier, as seen from the street, you showed us two pictures of the same house, same frontage, but
We haven't done anything in the nature of planning.
on the board you have right there, could you review back to the beginning when you were showing us the frontage from the street?
This one?
You're not going to show us?
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Earlier in your presentation, you showed us two views of the frontage.
Yep.
Can you show us
They're
those
both the
pictures?
same, yep. One was the colored rendering, which is that. And then that's the same view. Just not color.
So I want to point out that the color rendering is sometimes what happens is we're shown a picture and it looks smaller, but it's actually quite a bit larger than the color rendering from the angle it's being presented. We don't see both garage doors in the full presentation. I just want to point that out because from the beginning of this project, I might have been on the Concom then, the original house was supposed to be repaired and restored. And I don't remember anything from the Concom or planning board where that has changed or been accepted yet. And I understand you're trying to do that. But what I'm fearful of, that project creep is happening. I know you weren't the original developer, but the original things that I voted on over the years did not include this new house. And I'm thinking this house is a lot bigger than it was originally intended to be from the beginning of the project. That's my concern.
The original dwelling, the dwelling that's still out there, is basically an 850 square foot footprint. And then there's, the roof line just goes straight back, and you can see the dormers that are up there. So I think there's roughly 450 square feet. I think that was the number from the assessor's office. So the existing building's probably 1,300 square feet. You're right, this one is bigger, but again, we weren't party to that whole thing. In what we're trying to do is upgrade that area and cut down on the wetland jurisdiction, get some plantings, develop the whole thing in a better appearance than what could be left out there.
That could be the case. It could work.
Right.
I'm just concerned about project creep, and not to repeat myself on that, but there was a reason specifically why the original home was not included in the footprint of the homes that were eventually built behind there, and that was because it was supposed to be restored, and that was always the way it was presented for years. Different developer, different times. I'm open to see what you guys can present.
Yeah, Jane.
So basically, this new home that you're suggesting has the same footprint as the old one, or a different footprint?
The footprint on the existing is about 850 square feet, and the new one, I think, is 1,002. So it's,
But I meant the foundation, or is it
Yeah, that's
larger,
different.
it's bigger?
the living room is the same, then we got the garage.
Okay, well, thank you. I remember the old one, it wasn't that pretty. This is much more attractive.
Through the chair, can I so let me just try to level set some of the history. This development started in 2005 by a different developer, went through all the planning and necessary approvals at that time. From my recollection, the driveway was going to be where this home was going to be to this neighborhood. It was going to be off that little street and not off of West Elm. And
Right. The original approval into the development was going to be there, and let me just stop you for a minute. And I went back and looked at that, and apparently the decision was made to bring it around the side. Again, I wasn't the attorney involved. At that stage of the game, probably what should have happened is this lot should have been pulled out of that development, because it's a lot that can stand on its own. The open space and everything else associated with the same lot would meet all your requirements, but for some reason it wasn't, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know why. Looking at it, that was my first reaction. Why wasn't this lot separated and left on its own? Because it meets all zoning requirements, the location, everything can meet all zoning requirements. You were never going to have even the existing building 100 feet back from the perimeter, which was your zoning requirement for that development.
so as it stands now, there's the setback requirement from wetlands of Lake Maspenock, the backside. There's setback requirements from vernal pool and the setback from the street requirements. And then there's the existing house, the existing foundation. As it stands today, without any relief and approvals, can that house be built as is, or is there, what can be done without approvals, I guess is
So
nothing?
you can fix up the interior, and you continue to maintain the whole area, and you're now 9,000 square feet of continuous impact to the vernal pool area rather than 6,500. Yeah, you could make use of the existing lot.
So you could basically tear the house off its foundation, rebuild the house on the existing foundation, and that would be it without approvals.
Yeah.
The original.
It wouldn't make sense financially, but theoretically you could do that.
I'm just trying to get an idea of what
Right.
we're trying to decide here.
We can build a nicer home with less impacts to both wetlands areas. So that we're trying to balance all that out. Create a better product, less impact to the vegetated wetland, less impact to the vertical buffer zone, which has been our discussion with the Conservation Commission. We wanted to give you guys an update, complete the process with the Conservation Commission, and then come back and share with you
Thank you.
I'm good.
I was just gonna add, I hear the concerns about how they were supposed to originally rebuild the old house, but with the old house being right back in the middle of the wetlands, I think this does seem like to be a better option to move it out of the wetlands. And it's right now it's an eyesore. This would be an attractive house and similar size to other houses in the neighborhood. So although I understand that wasn't how it was approved originally, I think I'm comfortable with moving forward as long as Conservation Commission agrees that it's okay.
I think, again, I would agree that if Conservation Commission thinks this is a better option than leaving things as is, because I was just wondering, you know, is it really less impact on the wetlands if all that disturbance is going on to tear down the first house and then build the new house, still impacting wetlands? And I don't know the science of it. I mean, I'm going to leave that to Conservation Commission, you know, whether or not that really is better.
The one other thing I did not mention on the site is somehow or another, if you look at the old Concom in your plans as well, there's a trail connection out to the development that actually comes down and is shown within the wetland area. I don't know how, I don't know why it's shown on the plan, so we don't show it here, but it's part of that. And again, for additional benefit to the Concom, we're looking at kind of moving that to the north, I guess, in creating a little more buffer between the walking trail and the wetland.
I mean, there was
So
emergency access.
hold on one second, moving the trail, just to clarify?
Yeah, just moving it.
Out of the wetlands.
Again, right now, it's like right on that edge, and in fact, a piece of it is on the wetland, so we move it over probably 10 to 15 feet to the north.
At one point, and I forget exactly what's happened over the years, it was emergency access because there's only one entrance way into the development.
It wasn't sure. We'll look. But I think that'll be another improvement that we'll ultimately show to the Concom as well.
I think you as the developers have gone above and beyond what's required to make this new old project alive again. I think you've taken into consideration the views around the periphery that people will see, and the potential restoration of wetlands that had been destroyed and an impossible building site, an impossible existing structure. So I'd be positive with moving forward, but I do want to state, in the absence of our vice chair, because he may say this as well, Gary. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he may say that we do not want to make it a standing decision to kind of go into wetlands and because part of our battle cry is to take those kinds of things very, very seriously. And, but here where it's been sacrificed and we're talking about restoration of wetlands, I think we can make an exception.
So I have a question. I don't necessarily, I have a bit of a struggle with it too, because it's an existing previous decision that has changed over time, and it's a bit of a tangle. And it probably isn't a set of waivers that we would have entertained on its face if we'd had the first shot at it this way, right? And the previous decision does waive the setback requirements, and the way it's stated is to preserve the house, and I think that we all agree that the house is not worth preserving, and there may be some benefits to moving it out, but I would like to be clear that what the process is and what waivers are needed. I feel like this is a new decision that we're making, and I want to make sure that we entertain the appropriate waivers, and we articulate in our decision that this is, you know, that we don't intend this to set a precedent, and this is in response to a very complicated set of circumstances. Because I don't think I don't think this planning board would look at this, to do this, on its face, if this was a standalone question.
Yeah, we will get you kind of, again, that surveyed plan as we're gonna give to the Concom with all the jurisdictional benefits, both in the nature of the house and the thing. We've got the numbers, we haven't put them on a plan yet. And again, I think with those improvements again, I wasn't around at the time from the viewpoint of the reasons for maintaining the old house. It doesn't fit in certainly with the development we've got in yet.
I
That's
honestly
part
think-
of the condo, to pay condo fees and everything else associated with that. Then this makes more sense from the development's perspective.
I think it has to do with the entranceway that ultimately changed.
Yeah, I think it
right?
did shift.
So Concom is your only hurdle besides us?
I'm
Is that
sorry?
right? The Concom is the last hurdle besides the planning board? You're through with the design review?
Yeah, design review, I think, is all set. They wanted us to
Yeah.
make that change on the side of the
Yeah.
building.
And I also appreciate that it is, and while it's a little bit bigger, it's in keeping with the neighborhood as well. And just on its face will be a significant improvement to the structure that is there. But what are the, yeah, go ahead.
Chair, I do have a question though, because Frank did raise a legitimate point. If the access, has anything emergency vehicle-wise changed because it is a single access into the development next door? Has anything, does the fire department need access?
The approved plan for the development did not have a roadway access through here. It was only a trail ultimately that was there. So the access that is up, the
So
new
there
access
is
existing is
enough
all
for an
that was
emergency
approved.
vehicle to circle around in the existing?
Not through here, but the other way
Yeah.
in is all there
The
is.
other one.
That's why it
Yeah.
comes in and there's the loop,
There's a
so
loop.
that you don't have more than the 500 feet.
Okay, so
is-
that's
is
been
the-
resolved,
Right.
okay.
So Mayor, just to
Yes.
follow on to your question, and maybe we could
Yeah.
ask John, I don't see the number, any of the waivers listed in here. Is it just one waiver for setbacks, or is it multiple waivers?
It's a good question. This was something inherited by me.
Yeah.
So I'm
I
not
feel like it's gonna be a bit of a complicated set of waivers, to be honest. I don't know.
I mean, it's waivers in what fashion? I mean, it's a site
Setbacks,
plan,
right?
and then you're approving the site plan, and then you're approving the amendment to the special permit.
Right.
So it's not waivers as in like a subdivision
Okay.
plan where they have certain requirements that they have to do, and you can grant
Okay.
waivers to that. It's,
It's a different animal, thank you.
Right, but there was a waiver for this 25-foot setback. So
Right.
that is a waiver you had to grant. You had the right to do it. You did it to 75 for the rest of the development. But again, this house was a lot closer than 75 to begin with. And
Right,
again,
but
I
it-
said, we may ultimately look, depending upon how we can deal with the condominiums, trying to separate this and create it as its own lot, at which point in time we back to amend that special permit and take it out, prove to you that all the open space requirements are met and everything else, have a restriction from the viewpoint of the ongoing maintenance of the trail through this site to get to there, all those things would be satisfied.
I think the waiver specifically states for the purposes of preserving the house. And
The
I
other
think-
one was
I think that
75
that's-
feet, so-
I think that's why I just want to make sure that we make sure that our decision is very clear going forward. Because I think that we aren't waiving it to preserve the house, right? We're now waiving it so you can tear down that house and build a new structure outside of that.
We've got to come back with a final plan, so you
Yeah.
and I can make sure we define
Just make sure,
everything.
yeah. The only other question I had is, the underlying zoning of the whole parcel is the same? Or we don't know? Is the whole zoning the same there?
so it's under a garden apartment special permit.
Yeah?
We've just been continuing the meeting. You got 90 days after the close of the meeting to make the decision, but if you need any type of an extension, we can certainly get you one.
It says the underlying zoning was residential B, but it's being permitted as a garden apartment in residential, which is different from
I
that
believe it's
requirement.
this one
Okay,
right
that's what
here,
it is.
correct?
Yeah.
What's that?
This one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's in residential.
It looks like it's different than
And
the
this
rest,
is
yeah.
all,
Okay. So it's different than the rest of the
Correct.
development.
What is the rest of the development, John?
RLF,
Or-
residential lakefront. And I should also point out, I don't know if this changes any decisions, but if it were to be pulled out separately and be a standalone residential development, it wouldn't require any site plan approval. It's only because it's a part of the garden apartments that it requires the site plan.
Right. But you wouldn't situate it, you wouldn't be able to situate it, or you wouldn't choose to situate it without,
Well, we couldn't
Without
come
the
back to you
setback.
change without an amendment to the special permit taking this lot out. By the time we did that, you would have approved this as part of this process in what you see. So and we have no problem signing a recordable covenant that says whatever your final decision would be, that would be applicable to this lot, so that nothing could change.
okay. So when do you see the Concom next?
I suspect maybe a 2-month continuance to get us through the Concom period.
Okay.
And if they make any modifications, we'd have to show you the modifications of the site plan. We haven't done a landscaping plan as part of that approval, so when we come back, we'll show you that as well.
March, April, May is coming. Who is able to vote on this? You're not able to vote on this.
Maybe April, the end of April,
I would hustle for
When's your election?
April. May,
May.
yeah. Just to avoid having, probably choosing to start over. It would be administrative, but. So I was looking at the outline too, and I noticed that we didn't finish stormwater management or site lighting. Does anybody remember what are the open issues?
About stormwater management, there were issues from the people that live in the community right now. And then those were going to be addressed, where there's some siding had come loose. There's some questions about some of the basement cement areas that were questionable.
When we were looking at, what were they, 23 and 24, when you come in, the ones right to the
Yeah,
left
yeah.
across to the first ones that were built, there were concerns with some of the people there and the nature of the size of the roof leaders and everything else. All that has been changed, all the landscaping stuff. And again, we're talking now back in July, all that stuff was settled out. I don't know if anything has become an issue since then, not that we've been made aware of. But I think everything was settled out then. I drove through the site tonight. All the buildings are now under construction, so there's construction activity going through. But, the hope is to be done with the whole project this year. Come September, everything is done and, everybody's happy.
So there were a couple of people that had expressed concern with erosion from the roof runoff, and we went back and moved and seeded all of the areas. So we went through with our group and moved and seeded shortly after that. And that's sort of, we had that growing season, that late spring, early summer growing season, and then we did hand seeding again in the September season to boost that. So it's improved significantly from when we had our meeting and we had 2 residents come and express concern, most of which was erosion from a roof runoff.
Okay, I remember on this sidewalk, yeah.
So I also recall that there was some foundation cracks that they were concerned about as well. So that was in the pictures, and I just wanted to know whether or not that was addressed as well.
Well, the foundation cracks weren't leaking any water, so it's normal for foundation to have cracks, and we went and looked at them, and there wasn't really anything to do. If water shows up and starts to penetrate, then something would be addressed.
As long as you
But they were
examine them.
They were relatively common cracking that we see in
Okay.
concrete. But oftentimes that can be concerning for people who are looking at their basement and wondering if this could lead to a problem in the future. And I think that was the nature of it.
Yeah, and I also think that was combined with the runoff. They were concerned that there would be leakage.
Right. If it wasn't drained away from the house, then it could get in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and-
that's been taken care of.
And there were areas that had eroded from the roof runoff that have been stabilized since those meetings.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah.
On the foundation question, do you happen to remember if the cracks were vertical or horizontal? Because I know there's a difference.
Yeah, they were vertical.
I think that's just settling cracks. I think horizontal is the one to be more concerned with.
Well, let me just take a moment to ask if there's anybody who came tonight to speak on this hearing, on this project? Okay, so, seeing none. So when would you like to continue to, because 2 months from
Whatever your
now?
last meeting is in April,
So we have a meeting April 13th and April 27th. Both of them are wide
over
open.
the 23rd, we're hopefully.
27th.
Oh, 27th, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to April 27th. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay,
Thank you.
and the 27th is at Town Hall because of a conflict?
13th is at Town Hall.
13th is, okay, 27th will be here.
No problem.
All right. I will invite the Hopkinton Tennis Club to come on forward.
HTC.
To conditions.
HTC. I have so many acronyms flying through my head with my new job, I can't even tell you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you again. It's been a while, and we've been busy. I'm Bob Green, representative for project owner Donnie Satterfield, who lives here in Hopkinton. And we've got architect Lou Labeo and Jesse Johnson, the site plan engineer from Bowler, with us this evening. And just to give a quick recap, as I'm sure you know, we basically worked through the entire list the October 24th that was generated from the October 24th, 2019 beta review process.
Yep.
So the one thing that was remaining was on page 2, which was the SP2 regarding documentation from the fire department indicating emergency access around buildings being acceptable, etc. So, since that time, we have had over 6 hours of meetings on 3 separate occasions with fire code and building consultants, architects, site engineers, and of course, several different entities from the town, ranging from John right here to Chuck Kadlick and his department. And also we had Public Works at one of those meetings. And who am I forgetting? There were a lot of people in the room. We had, of course, we had the fire department, and we had air structure engineers from the Horizon Company as well at one of those meetings. So the result of all of this is that we have actually addressed 31 items related to fire code and life safety related to this project under 6 different sections. And our most recent meeting with the fire chief was on Thursday, and we've been going back and forth to finally clean this up, and he has had an opportunity to, hopefully you correct me if I'm misrepresenting anything, Steve, but we've had an opportunity to fine-tune it and filter it to the point where we felt we could be back here to present to you folks, and obviously hoping to get some approval to move forward with the project. So, thanks.
So we just got handed new plans. Do you want to tell us what that's for?
I think we should let Jesse talk about that.
So I've revised the plan set to give you the latest and greatest. It shows some of the changes that we had made to address the fire department's concerns. I'll give you a quick highlight on the site where we made some changes. The first one, probably the most important, was it was asked to have the entrance widened to allow for a fire truck to be able to enter in case somebody was at the stop sign trying to leave the site. They didn't want the fire truck to be impeded by coming in and knowing that Lumber Street isn't the most wide road, so we modeled it with a truck on the edge of the pavement on the outside and widened the driveway by 4 feet, so now we have clear space coming into the site. I was also asked of us to show a loading zone down in the lower area, but again, if somebody happened to be parked there loading or unloading, that the fire truck could still come in and do its maneuvering and get back out, so we designated that area. We also showed some snow storage areas down there, but again, we're out of that travel path in case there was any extended period of time the snow had to be on site, that fire apparatus still had the ability to come down and do full maneuvers down there. We also added pathways to emergency egress in the event that you had something going on in either of the domes, that there was an area of a pathway that we show with grading and call out on the site plan package where they could get far enough away from each of the air-supported structures. A pathway over in this region, another pathway over here for that structure, and then also additionally, it was asked that the set of stairs or an ability, rather than going down a steep slope, in case there was firemen up on the top level need to get back to the backside here of the facility, where the pool is now, so we added a proposed staircase through the landscape area over here. There's going to be real timbers, try to keep it a little bit nicer than having concrete stairs going down. So something that will be a landscape feature that will allow access easier going from this side, top side of the facility down to the bottom side, the southern side of the site. We also added some additional hydrants and standpipes to be able to allow the fire truck to be able to connect into the water, to fight the fire in the event. So we put another one over here on this side of the building, and another one down at the lower level. We've also proposed 4 standpipes on the back side of these facilities, which will allow better access again to fight the fires. That's really it. That's what the plans reflect. So we just wanted you to have an updated plan set to reflect those changes and a revision block that you could reference in the event that you voted to approve the project.
So I'm just going to say that traditionally, we hold very firmly to our submission deadline. All of these changes are to accommodate the needs of fire safety and the changes there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any questions? Rob?
Not about fire safety, but one of the things we've talked about a lot is the getting to this facility, having children being able to walk there. What progress has been made on a sidewalk to the facility, if any?
The sidewalk, I believe, has to be put in as per the original master plan. So the sidewalk is mandatory. We budgeted for that and actually have been expecting to put it in. Now, I don't want to go into the weeds here, but as you recall, last time we had kind of an informal anecdotal discussion on what that sidewalk would look like. And it would be obviously preferable to have it be a standard type of sidewalk. But, you know, there may be some options there. We talked about some kind of raised platform through the woods or something like that. And that will all have to be addressed at some point in the future. And also as you recall, when we had this discussion previously, I suggested that this would possibly set up, I use the word adversarial, but perhaps it would be a needed discussion because the planning board might want that sidewalk to look different than what the Conservation Commission would like it to look like. But in the larger view of this project, that if that's our worst problem, we'd be happy about that. So that's, hopefully that answers your question.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Page 15 of the memo has that sidewalk, all the details of the sidewalk in it.
Where
In
it's
our
crossing,
memo.
where it's crossing the street multiple
Well,
times?
this was
No.
what else came up in the discussion, Robert. Because I think everybody agrees in principle that in terms of safety, it would be desirable to not have that sidewalk, not have to cross the street once, let alone twice, to serve this. And that's actually what triggered, what Mary was talking about, that's what triggered the discussion on having the sidewalk and getting it on the same side of the street. So you know, we'll have to address that. But obviously, from our perspective, from a safety and a construction perspective, we would prefer to have that sidewalk run down Lumber Street on one side coming down from the 77 West Main Street development.
And just to elaborate a little bit more on that, I believe you guys will be attending a Trails Committee meeting?
Yes,
upcoming?
I actually attended the Trails Committee meeting, and we had discussed several possibilities, and our owner would be very happy to join up with the Trails network. And as you know, I think I brought this up previously as well, that we are, I'm going to say, to the edge of the school property, about 3/4 of a mile. And so that is a reasonable distance to allow access from the school. My discussion with the Trails Committee was a preliminary nature. It was more of a conceptual agreement type thing. We thought this would be a good idea, but no detail was discussed with regard to the construction of the trail, what the materials would be, or anything of that nature.
Thank you.
Where would,
Thank you for bringing that up.
where would you connect to the school property? Where does it?
So there is talk of a trail coming back through right near the Mastriani property.
Yeah.
Of a new trail coming back that way, so coming in the back of their property.
It all connects.
Yeah, yeah.
I did go talk to Paul a little bit about that, and Kathy suggested that they were going to talk to the Trails Committee as well, and there was something, they were going to get involved with trails around the Chamberlain development as well.
Correct.
Might make sense to collaborate on that all at once.
Absolutely, Muriel. Yep.
I think it's just important to get an easement or a grant of approval for the concept, because there's a chance the town could get a Mass Trails grant for construction.
Yeah,
It's very important to get that agreement, you know, and at least a memorandum of understanding that we are working together to get some sort of trail system.
well, our disposition on that, Jane, is that the Trails Committee owns that relationship, and we would be more amenable to working with them and maybe even acquiescing to where they would like it to go, rather than us trying to tell you where it would go, because you may know.
I don't think I'm just saying where it should go, I'm just saying that in conceptual, just as you're saying it's a conceptual.
Oh, okay, I understand.
That, just as a broad concept, that you're willing to give some sort of easement through their property, wherever it may go, because I'm sure Conservation Commission will have a lot to say about it as well.
Yeah, and we need to figure out where to connect it to.
And
That-
I think it's about connectivity and, you know, the whole broad, you know, package. It's just it's a memorandum of understanding, just that we would work together with you to some point
Yeah,
to make this.
and we're wide open to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the decision condition that work, or
think-
potentiate that work, or?
I think that it could be some language in the planning boards, just that it would be a broad conceptual plan, that they would continue to work with the Trails Coordination Committee, that this broad concept, just you know, future planning, that
Yep.
this be brought into it, so this language is there. So that you don't have to actually build the trail, and I can't speak for the Trails Committee, that's not where I'm coming from, but just that there is this perceptual agreement, you know, conceptual agreement that this could be a possibility.
And beneficial in all
And, yeah,
directions.
right, working with the schools,
Yeah.
trying to connect.
If the students can get to your facility,
I see this as a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Correct,
Not-
but
not-
I think it's important to have the language there.
no, I agree.
I think,
Sounds good.
if I might interject.
I'm gonna come around the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to finish up on the trails thing, I'm not sure if you're looking for all input or just trails input.
Any input.
Okay, so as far as the trails, these guys have been very helpful in working with us. So to your point, let's capture it in writing and just, you know, nothing crazy, but,
That's what Jane said.
the issue we have actually was crossing a strip of land from the, end use. You know,
Yeah,
mixed use. They have a path way back there, so we're on board with Mastriani, we're on board with these guys. We just have to get across that one little area.
So, I'm glad you brought that up, David, because this may require cooperation also with the Sportsman's Club.
Oh, yeah.
So this will be a multiple group.
And we may have to whip around.
Yeah, we,
Keep our distance.
idealistically, we'll keep our distance from that one. We'll try to go, but you never know, because Mastriani's got some trails going along the whole way, so our big concern is to get access to you guys, or to,
Good, okay. It's awesome that it's, you know, a vibrant subject of conversation that everybody seems to be agreeing that it makes sense to do, so.
Thank you. They actually asked the questions I was going to ask, so we're kind of all of the same mind. I think about a lot of this. I think the sidewalk should be only on the east side, and hopefully that can work out that way. I think you guys put a lot of time and effort into this in response to our concerns. You worked with our fire chief. Thank you, Chief Slayman. Put a lot of extra time on this. You should be on the planning board. I'm very pleased that this has come along. I know it's stalled for a while. Now it's back, and I'm looking forward to voting for it.
Thank you.
I think I'm mostly okay. So we have a condition on sidewalks. We don't have, we need some sort of condition about trails, I guess. But otherwise, I think it looks like it's great.
Yes, and, you know, I'm really, really big on the sidewalk being on that side of the street. And I will come to every Concom meeting that this is about. So just, you know, I will speak at the Concom as needed to support that, so.
Well, we're hoping that when we're ready to go forward with this, that we can have kind of a team meeting, a cooperative working session. At least that's how I think it would be best approached.
I would be very much in favor
I
of
would
that.
really like to avoid anything that resembles acrimony
Yeah.
around this subject, if at all possible.
Nobody's looking for acrimony, indeed, and we're happy to support whatever works best and what is safest. And I think the Concom is going to be similarly minded.
I think so, too.
I would ask for a step further, that in the site plans, so not a side note in the writing, I would think it would be really nice in this overall plan where we've already drawn West Main and we have the overall site, that we put some kind of a dashed line saying future sidewalk. It's just a dashed line, but it could, you know, very much on the east side, it could just symbolize that's the intention and that's the thought. And I think here it's very important to show it.
Actually, we do have a note on there, extension of sidewalk.
Can you show me where? So it'd be good on this front page right there as well, in that front piece.
It
And then-
covers that. Look, this is existing range.
which plate number are you on?
Layout plan.
What page?
3? I can see that, but I can't see these little tiny letters.
Can you point to it again so we can?
I didn't bring my glasses.
Dash line demo, say that we're gonna have to do something on the shoulder of that side of the road. So we're showing that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What I would, if you get back on this drawing and there's that opportunity to do that, I would extend the dash line up the side and put the arrow, another arrow, going in the opposite direction so that it's got that, it sort of has that grander approach. And then what I would do, if it's okay for you to have input here.
Just before you go further, before you get off this one, can we show it up there, just so I can see the dash line? I'm having a little hard time following it.
Yeah, maybe a darker line too, or high, you know, bold out letters.
So what'll end up happening too for timing, that's worth mentioning about the sidewalk
Yeah.
is, we obviously have to do a full design on it. It's gotta go before Conservation Commission for permitting. It's also gotta go obviously to the DPW for their review and approval. So we'll get additional survey, we'll do a conceptual layout of the sidewalk, we'll meet with the DPW, get their buy-in, and then we'll formalize it and submit it to Conservation. So we can't do anything. We won't even be able to go for a building permit
Right, but maybe what we
So we
need
get
is
that
a little
figured
bit of a
out.
holder, or either a block with those words a little bit larger, or a heavier dashed line, just sort of a
What
little
I'm
bit.
saying is I'm gonna get you a fully developed plan set that it's gonna be so much more detailed than this. This is just indicating that, guess what, guys, you have to do a sidewalk here. It's gonna happen, and any contractor's gonna know this is where my work ends, and he might not get the contract for the next portion of it, but it's indicating that you guys are safe, and that it says we have to do a future extension of the sidewalk. It's also gonna be in your conditions, and I'm gonna get you a fully engineered plan that's suitable for submission to the Conservation Commission and the state for review.
Terrific.
We have to get you in a
I-
chair.
I would still like push you to increase the size of it, just so that, the commoner can see what you have going on and what your plan is.
So to the chair, I'm just trying to, I'm not asking for anything different, I'm just trying to understand this one.
Yeah.
So is it the dotted line that goes across the street?
No.
Can you show it specifically the dotted line?
So what we're showing is we have concrete sidewalk on the site, but then as soon as we get into the right-of-way, we're transitioning.
Can you,
from
sorry,
concrete-
can you just trace the line? Which one are you talking about?
That's the end right there. So he's right on the sidewalk, of bituminous sidewalk being installed along the right-of-way. So we're actually already heading down the street and permitting some sidewalk down the road outside of our property limits. Right up to, see where that telephone pole symbol is?
Yeah.
We stopped it right there because that's where we gotta figure out what to do with. We gotta go around that pole somehow, and I don't know if the impact will be going towards the wetlands.
Okay, so it's a very thin dotted line. It's not the thick one that goes across the street.
No, the thick
Okay.
one is actually the limit of work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's indicating that we're gonna have to rip out asphalt or disturb
Okay.
some existing condition.
Thank you.
I think that what I'm trying to push for a little bit is just that statement, just what you said. The intention is we're gonna be taking out bituminous asphalt, and if that grayed outline is the end of the asphalt, to extend it up, or to put a break line intending the fact that it would extend all the way up. Thanks.
Deb, what I'm gonna suggest is that you leave it open to work on some language for the condition.
Okay.
If we need to
Okay.
draft something. Okay.
Yep.
Just for the record, can I have the fire chief just share with us your blessing? Have you seen I assume you've seen these new plans, or? Are you limping?
Yes, I saw the plans. It was a great cooperative effort here. Quite a few conditions with this site that just made us deal with some code issues later. I really believe that we got to a better place. I hope we've gotten you to believe in that. Most of these are code requirements. They're not the fire chief's ideas.
Yeah.
But we worked together to solve some stuff with the here structures, and it was a great team effort. So I appreciate their involvement in solving it all.
Well, we appreciate that you took you worked this situation through, because it's way out of our expertise, so appreciate that. Okay, is there anybody here that's here to speak on this project? Any abutters? Anybody from the public? Okay. John? Any final thoughts, or?
Nope, I think everything was addressed up to this point, and the fire chief talked about the one remaining thing, so I think we're in good shape.
The only thing that we did have open on the agenda is noting the town department and boards. We still have open the Board of Health permit issue. Are you in front of the Board of Health, or?
No, they've issued a permit.
I'm sorry?
They've issued.
They've issued it, that's all done? Okay. And then the trails, and I think that we've talked about that, so does anybody have anything more? Okay. So, yes?
I just wanted to ask about the landscaping and the trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it now okay?
Sure.
So can you guys pull up, or John, can you pull up slide 8?
I wish this was in front of us. I used to be able to look above you.
I apologize if we already talked about this and I don't remember, but I was just curious about the tree locations. So can you just speak to where the trees will be going, like major trees, please?
So those circles, pretty much with the sticks, for lack of better words, going
Okay.
through them, those are tree symbols.
The spokes.
Yeah, there you go. I like
So,
that better.
so there won't be any tree plantings in the back of the property, just all
That's
the
right.
front?
Right,
Okay.
because it's basically out of sight, out of mind, and you have the all natural vegetation
Okay.
surrounding us.
So you don't expect to be clearing too far back, so, okay, great.
Just one other comment on that relates to the fire chief and the discussion that we had previously. We want to be reasonably far away from any tall trees coming around the airstretch. That's a safety issue. And that's one of the items that came up when we were meeting.
Sounds fair to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, just as a side note, we're probably, given that this is a community project, we'll probably try to work with Weston Nurseries on this project and get them involved in that aspect of it.
So, that's awesome. That's really good news. We always love it when our community partners are working in partnership, obviously. Additional or new comments or information?
No comment about that comment, I'm sorry.
No.
There are several other gardening places in town as well, and one's across the street from
That's what I was thinking,
This is true.
There is this one almost across the street.
That's true.
me. And all the places in town are excellent.
Yes.
Right, we don't
Totally.
People, well, I don't want to waste too much time, but some of the people I've talked to suggested that the Western Nurseries have some kind of special rhododendron that they developed.
Their legacy,
And it's a
the
species
legacy.
that they invented.
Okay, rhododendron.
So I thought that might be cool to have a unique species as part of it.
So if you haven't seen it around, there are the purple bushes all around in the spring, and they're, as Jen said, PJM's and they're named after Peter J. Mezet, the guy who invented them.
If the weather stays like this, we're going to switch to palm trees.
All right. So I think that, John, do you mind walking us through the decision and the findings? And I think that it sounds like we are ready to move forward.
So this is an amendment to a site plan. And so the decision criteria is relatively simple. It's the site plan conforms to the master plan special permit, and the site plan conforms to the site plan standards set forth in section 210-136-1. There haven't been significant changes to the site plan itself that I believe would change those site plan standards, but
These are the existing conditions? No, these are the proposed conditions.
these are conditions from the previous approval
It is,
updated to
yes.
this development.
Okay, so the only other one we would talk about adding is if we put in some language about the sidewalk that Deb mentioned, and just some comment on trails and the plan for trails.
Correct.
And you've had a chance to walk through the conditions and you're comfortable with them all? Yes?
I haven't seen where they've changed significantly.
They haven't changed
No.
significantly. They're basically
Actually,
conditions from the previous.
we think this whole project has changed favorably, if anything, in terms of impact, so.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve the special permit with the proposed conditions as outlined.
So moved.
Correction, it's a site plan,
Site
and we should
plan.
probably make findings first.
Sure.
Finding that it conforms to the master plan special permit and find that it conforms to the site plan standards.
All right. Oh, that's before my outline, that's my confusion. So, on the matter of findings, a motion that we find that the site plan conforms to the master plan special permit and that the site plan conforms to the site plan standards set forth in 210-136.1 of the zoning bylaw.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? And then I will entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the approved site plan, is that?
Waivers first. So they didn't technically request any waivers,
Yep,
but
here.
2 waivers were granted for the previous site plan.
Previously.
So I would assume they would also still need those.
And we
I
have to
believe in the-
re-vote those?
Yes.
No new waivers are requested or required as a result of the plan modifications. The previously granted waivers listed below are still necessary. the Town of Hopkinton zoning ordinance, section 210 I'm very sorry about that. Section 210-136.1, letter M, sidewalks shall be provided along the entire frontage of the subject property along the existing public ways. And section 136.1N, to allow for pole-mounted lights that do not conform to the site plan standards. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the waivers as previously approved.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any further notes, John? Or on to the site plan amendment?
On to the site plan amendment.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the site plan.
This is section 3.3, or, sorry.
I'm not in 3.3.
392?
392 is where I am.
Okay.
392, page 14, it begins the proposed conditions.
Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the approved NMU site plan with the conditions as listed and discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Did you want to add the 2 conditions about the sidewalk and the trails?
I did, in the discussion. We're going to do that. Yeah, thank you, though, if you can make sure we
That
don't
was my
forget
understanding.
Yeah. Second, any further discussion? Can I just ask, Deb, did you have to sign something before you vote? Was that in-
She's already signed it.
She signed it, okay. So everybody can vote.
Except Jane.
Jane? Just wait till you are able to vote on everything.
I managed to ask enough questions.
We've all gone through it at different times.
She's in planning board, you're in planning board purgatory.
She was appointed
Planning board purgatory.
mid-process. Yeah, she's in purgatory. Yes, but we appreciate her.
Actually, I take that back. It looks like, I don't know if you signed the form for this one. It doesn't say you did, and Jane is eligible.
Jane is
I
eligible.
was confusing it with Maspenock. So.
Okay. And Deb may not be, so it probably makes sense to, I thought I had seen in
I
here
thought I
that.
had signed everything. I
It
needed to
says,
sign.
it doesn't say, so Kobe is usually pretty good about this. And Muriel and David filed MMCs. Deb missed the 11:25 meeting, but it doesn't say that you signed an MMC, so.
Okay, let's, I think we're gonna be fine anyway,
I
so.
think I did, but
All those in favor signify by saying aye. What?
Do we need to add?
we need to add the. yeah,
What?
We wanted to add a couple conditions, and we wanted to.
Yes, we talked about that. We're gonna put language in about the trails and the clarification on the sidewalk.
Are we gonna do that after, so we're gonna vote and just,
Yep. Yeah,
have this-
we create the decision, yeah.
We have a trust factor.
okay.
So we're gonna vote first and then draft the final conditions?
Yeah, which we do typically. These are the proposed conditions.
And then,
But would you like to draft something now on the fly?
No, it's, the big thing is something we've talked about previously, is just the crossing of the street. Like, it's only, what, a quarter mile? And having to cross the street is not really great for kids coming from, that development right there on the corner.
Chair, I think there is some verbiage in
I'm
here. It says,
absolutely happy to check and make sure that that's in there.
it says, however, may I read it? So this is the second proposed condition. However, in lieu of constructing the sidewalk to the south, the applicant should construct a sidewalk along Lumber Street to the north, connecting to a planned sidewalk network. Specific conditions are related. So I guess it doesn't say on that side of the street, but there's also a bunch of
It
verbiage.
implies that it could be,
Yeah,
it could happen,
right.
even though that's not what we want.
So we're just taking a
I
step
agree, too.
further in coming up with verbiage that, to change the drawing note to be specific and then to also have it in the memo for about the trails. So we're just being a little bit tighter on the.
Hold on one second, I'm writing something and I'm not hearing what you're saying, so hold on one second. So I'm adding the condition to work with the Trails Coordination Committee and the Sportsman's Club to connect via the trail network to the school property. Okay, so
Perfect.
that's the one, that's the easy one. Go ahead, what was,
I think, to Rob's point, I agree with him now. I didn't see it in here about particularly having the sidewalk on the east side of Lumber Street.
That would be,
specifically.
I know that.
No, it makes sense.
No, but it's-
Conflict
yeah.
with some of the Concom.
That's, I feel the same way, and Frank feels the
It's a
same way.
preference, but we don't know because engineering's needed and further discussion.
At worst case scenario, I think that they would have to build a bridge.
Right.
Well,
I think we'd much rather have.
build a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all agree on that.
Yes.
We know that we have to do it.
Definitely that.
But we all agree that our preference is that it remains on the east side of Lumber Street. And I think while there may be some people who aren't in this room tonight that might want to disagree with that, I'm optimistic that, as I suggested previously, that somehow, when it comes time to deal with that, we can get together and come up with the sensible, a sensible outcome on that.
It may have to be a boardwalk of some sort.
Then it
So
comes
are they
to
okay with the east side?
Disability issues with the boardwalk.
So I appreciate that you kind of hung in there with the point, because I'm not sure that we were all getting it. Are you comfortable if we put in the decision that we are mandating it be on the east side of Lumber Street? What you're trying to avoid is conflict, right? I understand it
Oh.
complicates things, but it has
I
to be
would
on
like-
that side of the street for safety. I mean, our job is safety.
So even though we agree that we all want it on the east side, I would hate to see the language be such that it shuts down the project if somehow,
I mean, it's difficult for us to
there can
agree
be no
to,
agreement with the Concom or something
it's
like
difficult
that.
to agree to language that's out of our control. Is that, I mean, the
Yeah.
decision ultimately, we'd be, more, all of us absolutely go on record that we want it on the east side. We'll do everything we can to do so, but it's beyond our ability to approve that. There are other jurisdictions with engineering and with Concom that are
I have
going to
a
have to have some
suggestion.
input in that.
To Robert's point, other point that he made.
Hold on one second.
The boardwalk or elevated walkway type of project could be constructed to standards that would accommodate handicapped if necessary.
Absolutely.
Think of it this way. If you went down to Hilton Head Island or somewhere, how they have those big wide boardwalks going through the mangrove swamp,
Yeah.
that it would be that type of arrangement. We would prefer to do a standard sidewalk, obviously, going up the east side, but it can be done.
It can be done with special treatment on the boardwalk and certain inches of depth, so it's accommodating.
So, I'm sorry, I want to make sure, what you're saying is it can be done
It
staying
can
on
be done.
east side despite the wetlands challenges?
Correct.
Yes, that's what I wanted to make sure
But
I
the
was
final
understanding you.
Application is dependent on Conservation Commission.
Even an elevated boardwalk would require conservation.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. We
it can
understand
be
that, we
done.
understand that it bumps up against the Concom, and they'll have to be on board with it as well. Yes.
One last point. So if the sidewalk is a situation where from that development, it crosses the street and then crosses back across the street, you might as well not have a sidewalk at all, have no
Agreed.
stipulation.
Yeah, no, well, nobody's arguing with you.
No,
Yeah.
I just want to make it perfectly clear, like,
Yeah,
that's the reality.
I agree completely.
Totally agree, and I think I have a suggestion that will solve our issue here. In the findings, not the findings, the
Conditions.
conditions, thank you. Can we state that the sidewalk will be on the east side of the property? If this is not feasible, that the applicant will come back before the planning board?
Well, they'd have to anyway, right?
Well, just to, I think it would make them happy that it wouldn't, we're not looking to hold up the project.
The way, as I suggested previously, the way I see this playing out is that when it comes time to deal with this, we need to get representation
Yeah.
from the planning board and the Concom.
Yeah.
Actually, similar to what we did with the rest of the town and the fire department to work through those issues. We actually kind of developed a very good process there that we could probably replicate to resolve this issue.
I'm not opposed to that at all. I think it's a great idea.
And we totally agree with you, we're just trying to find wording now that will allow us to move forward and
Yeah.
vote on it.
Yeah.
Would the language, would coming back to planning board be limited to that issue at that point, or would it be open to all other issues? Just because we don't know what the makeup of the
What
board's
is
going.
the process
So
there? Because
my-
it's major and minor, right?
My concern with that would be if you require them to come back before the planning board but don't specify what they'd be requesting, kind of vague. And if you required them to put a sidewalk on the east side and they couldn't, they would have to come back for a site plan amendment to
Right.
change that condition.
Right. There is a process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's,
I mean, I think we're okay with it, just need to alleviate their concerns, right? So, I mean, would you be okay with the process to come
It
back?
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't alleviate, I mean, they understand that's what happens. If we mandate the east side and the Concom is stuck on not the east side, then they definitely have to come back. I mean, that's what we know.
I'm okay with that, but are they okay with that?
I just don't know if there's any, if anyone here in this room has any kind of knowledge of the Concom judging conservation versus safety
So
and these type of matters.
we can't decide for them anyway, even if we had, we'd be hazarding a guess, and that makes no sense in the process, to be honest with you. But I have every confidence that another board in town is gonna do the most sensible thing with the challenges of the development. I mean, why would they not? Amy?
So I was going to add a comment on sidewalks, and I agree that it's better that it be on the same side, on the east side, but I live on Grove Street, Route 85, and we do not have a sidewalk on both sides of the street. So my kids literally cross the street, walk another block, cross the street back, and then walk to school. And it's not ideal, but we have these situations in town, some places where that's just how it is. So I understand if we have to do it the other way, we'll have to, but I don't know. I don't think it's the end of the world if we had to have people cross the street.
I'm a little conflicted on that, to be honest with you, because that's an existing
worried.
situation. Like, I wish your kids weren't experiencing that. And I almost watched my 17-year-old get plucked off the planet because he was stupid, but because of that whole dynamic.
And you can see, you
And you can see the whole way, that's right.
distance. That's the issue, is you can see the distance. It's not something far enough where you can't see the
Yeah.
end.
No,
Anyway,
I would prefer it on the east side, but there
I
could be
think they
something
would
beyond
put
our control.
it would impose a very serious limitation in that we almost wouldn't be able to even commence the project. And it would almost be like we haven't gotten the planning board approval if everything is conditional upon that sidewalk, because it's an item beyond our control.
So,
So I think-
where are you in the Concom process?
We're done with the
We're done
Concom
with it.
process.
So why?
The sidewalk's
So the sidewalk is, you didn't talk about the sidewalk with the Concom?
No, because it's a lot of, frankly, it's a lot of extra effort and money to design that if this project doesn't go forward, then why expend all that other money for basically a stage 2 of the project? So we need this to be okay and getting approval and some nods to then be able to go back to the client and say, okay, now we're asking you to expend this much more money on survey, engineering, and permitting. That is really, they're two separate projects.
Yeah.
The other part of that is that we have been traveling all along under the impression that because it mandated that the sidewalk needed to be done in the original order of conditions, that to that point, it was addressed. And as I said before, we all know there is going to be a sidewalk.
Okay, anybody else on this side weighing in? So let me just ask.
I would say we shouldn't word it in such a way that they're forced to come back and get an amendment to this condition. So we could say, the planning board strongly,
That means nothing.
or,
Very, very
yeah, that's the
strongly.
thing. I don't think we should put anything in, because just a strong recommendation is not a condition. So,
I think the wording you read is fine.
Yeah, I kind of agree with, I mean, if we don't plan for a sidewalk on one side of the street, then we're not doing our job. We're not planning.
I agree.
So I feel very uncomfortable with having some verbiage in there.
And we all know Lumber Street.
it's horrible, yeah.
I'd say there's two big differences between Grove Street and Lumber Street, and that's because Grove Street is heavily residential. This section of Lumber Street is not. And I think the traffic flow is extremely different. And I think specifically because there's no fog lines and no yellow center trail line down the middle of the road, the traffic flies. And to Bob's point, I think if you're going to have a lot of children.
This is an attractive project.
Right.
Families want to send their children to it.
One question I might ask, I don't know the answer, but the wetlands where there may have to be a boardwalk, how much of a distance is that? And is that actually a huge cost differential? I know that comparison-wise, sidewalk versus boardwalk, you know.
So, we
Doesn't-
haven't got it fully engineered yet.
Yeah, we really.
We have to get the wetlands, yeah, we have to
Discuss
get the
that
wetlands
at the
delineated again, because it's been over 3 years. So we'll have to get that updated, then the survey done, so we know where the edge of pave is, the edge of the wetlands are, and then obviously the topography in between. So then we can start to really figure out, because what conservation's gonna be wanting to know is, do you have to fill in a portion of the wetlands, or even create shade over the wetlands, which they're
And there
concerned
could be a lot of different variations.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Little
What
or
we-
none.
Right, and what we looked at last time was, were there any locations along there where you could get sight lines and have to make a crossing? Well, it wasn't gonna be planned crossing where you just put a couple signs up. It would probably have to be something elaborate, like if you ever are gone to Kimball's in Westford, where you've got one
And
tank.
taking your life into your own
You've got
hands.
those flashing
Yeah, I
lights
have
across
been
the-
there,
I've
right.
been there many times. I go there with my family. If it's a known area where a crossing, traffic starts to understand that, and when you have those big flashing lights that you can press the button and get them activated. I mean, there are certainly things that are acceptable safety standards today if we absolutely had to. But let's play worst case situation. We had to propose a filling in of, say, 300 square feet of wetlands. We would be asked to replicate probably 1.5 or twice that or something to mitigate that. That's probably what it's gonna come down to. That's gonna be the negotiation.
Right, right. I don't think that planning to put up big flashing Kimball-style lights is really the direction we want to go. And I think, from my perspective, using Grove Street as an example, I mean, if we were planning Grove Street, we'd do it differently, right? We wouldn't have people crossing back and forth. We don't get a chance to go back in history, right? It is. Well, it's also, it came up over time.
People don't tend to travel as fast.
Oh, I don't,
On Lumber Street.
Lumber Street.
Same situation
Yeah.
on Hayden
And
Road
it's
toward
like
Milford and
distance.
Tustin.
It
and
is, it is,
Yeah,
There's a lot of.
but they go faster.
yeah,
So
no.
it sounds like there's a lot of,
I do think that when push comes to shove, we have to plan for safety. I see you over here writhing in agony, Frank. Yes.
I'd like to answer Rob's question about the Concom. I was on it for 3 years. What they usually look at in matters like this, he mentioned the replication, whatever's disturbed, they look at what's pre-existing, pre-disturbed, and whatever improvements can be made. And then safety is a factor that we consider and Concom considers. But they're looking for protecting the wetlands, and we're also looking to protecting people. So I think they'd be open to hearing the ideas as presented, and hopefully they'll understand that we have a preference for the east side of the road.
All right, so I
I'm not sure how we
think that,
communicate that, but.
yeah, so can I just have a show of hands, people who are going to hold fast to the notion that it has to be on the east side of the road
Do you mean in voting yes or
in the
no?
decision? Or putting it in and mandating the east side?
you were the one who started this whole thing.
I'm just looking around there, Rob, just waiting to see how strongly you feel.
I'm really torn. I have other questions. That would be, if we don't mandate the east side of the road, it'd be 3 street crossings within, that's a very short distance from where Hopkinton Tennis Club is gonna be, and the intersection at, West Main. I think for safety reasons,
wouldn't it be 2 crossings?
no, well, there's already the pre-existing one, right there where you cross from like Starbucks to the Dynasty at
Right,
the road.
on the other side of the road, that's what you said.
I know.
And you're right, there is a law that says you can't have so many, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't have so many
Crosses.
crossing walks within so many feet. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
it worked out, I'm not sure
So,
where we are with that process.
as I mentioned previously, way back when we first started this, when we first started this whole thing, that this is one of those aspects of the project that was previously approved. So it's already there. I would really like to avoid any language in this that holds up the project, that will further stall this project. If there
So,
was a way we
to
can
be
avoid
clear,
that.
we know, you've said that, and we are not insisting, we're not having this discussion to hold you up in any way.
I understand.
We understand the complexity.
is there, I will just say this, obviously you own the relationship. We, if good faith goes a long way, or any distance at all on this one issue, I can say this with certainty, if not high confidence, that we are gonna do everything we possibly can to get that sidewalk on the east side of Lumber Street.
Appreciate that.
So point of clarity here.
Yes.
In the conditions, it says, it specifically says this master, located in this master plan, overall development plan dated August 20th, 2014. Do we know what that, all that plan looks like? There's lots of verbiage here.
So I was actually just looking at that, and if I have it correct, it's this plan. This one. Master plan, overall development plan, August 20th, 2014. I did not see anything about sidewalks except for up here. So it says proposed sidewalk connection here, but it doesn't necessarily show anything unless I'm missing it along the road here.
Along Lumber Street as shown on the site plan from the site driveway to the driveway to the Hopkinton Mews. Location shown on the plan, blah, 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 blah.
So, I think the dilemma is we all want this project to move forward, but I don't think we want it to move forward at the expense of safety, is the concern.
I don't think they do either, right?
Yeah.
And I truly believe in Thomas Jefferson's hat as not going above it. It's an old Philadelphia term. But then in 2005, they built above it. It didn't matter. So I really think it's important to have it in the verbiage, and I love a gentleman's agreement, and I really like how consistently, strongly you've stated that, and I truly believe that's going to happen, because I think we have a lot of concerned citizens, both on the Concom and here on the Planning Board, but it'd be certainly nice to have it stated, in a very simplistic way, similar to what you've started on the drawings there, but perhaps in more of a implied connective way that would just follow through with our good intention.
I think that's what we're looking for too.
Okay.
Some level of language that will.
Some level of language.
That will capture the intent of what we all agree on.
Yeah.
But will not be a barrier.
I mean, I think we've demonstrated on any issue that's come up that the owner has controlled. We've been willing to work with the board, work with the other departments to provide that. This one issue, unfortunately, we don't have control over. And that's where I think our concern is. This could set back the construction of the project, 3, 4, 5 months, and that's a concern.
I throw this out there. What if the condition stipulates that we submit a formal application with the sidewalk designed on that side? So that you're making sure that that's what we're gonna put in writing, and that's what our application is gonna be before the Conservation Commission. And then after that, obviously, we're subject to the commission and what they vote on and any input they take from you guys, but you would be forcing us to at least initially design it that way and put our best foot forward out of the gate.
That makes sense. That kind of pulls it away from all this,
Well,
and
that
lets
would
everything else
also-
go forward, right?
As long as that would, in a legalistic sense, kind of separate that and compartmentalize it outside of the main project, if we can agree that that's the intent, I think that makes sense.
John?
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, it would be to require them to submit a revised layout plan showing the proposed sidewalk on the East Main Street, or on the East Lumber Street?
Our initial, it won't be revised. It'll basically be our sidewalk design will be submitted with the sidewalk on the east side of.
To the Concom or to the planning?
To the
Conservation,
Concom.
because it's their jurisdiction.
And that will trigger what we talked about earlier, which would be the working sessions to the silver ranch.
I mean, not to throw a wrench into this, but if they submit it and then it's not accepted by Concom and they have to revise it, they wouldn't necessarily have to come before planning board, because that's not a plan approved by planning board.
But yeah, it'd be a DPW jurisdiction and conservation. That's So if you want to say DPW and Concom,
I mean, my suggestion, if allowed, would be to, if you wanted to have this, it would also be based on the approval of the public safety departments, fire, police, DPW, and get their sign off as well.
The same guidelines for site distance and all that kind of stuff. I'm writing something to see if it works.
You're stalling. It's working.
A couple changes.
Gary, would you like us to start over?
We'll start by throwing you out.
While Muriel's writing, if I may, I think it's a good suggestion by John, because I'd be comfortable with the police, the fire, and the DPW, because they'd be ensuring safety, right? Yes.
Comprehensive.
All right, so what did you say?
Jesse's plan to submit as sidewalk on the east side to Concom, and I guess it could either be that plan, or if the plan was determined not to be able to only be on the east side, that any future plan have the sign off of fire, police, and DPW.
Yeah.
So it's upon the conditions of a design submission for the east side sidewalk within the jurisdiction and approval of the safety departments.
So I wrote, in the interest of safety, the planning board and the applicant are in agreement that the sidewalk shall be designed and constructed on the east side of the roadway if at all possible. The final plan must have the sign off of fire department, police department, and DPW.
That's fair. Yeah, as long as the if at all possible is in there, we're
Yeah,
good.
no,
with
I'm
that.
not, I'm not toying with anybody. We're all trying to
We-
circle
and
the
we-
same wagon.
We fully understand how this is a difficult process when there's all different
Yeah.
jurisdictions involved, and we
How
appreciate
does that work for everybody?
I like it.
Yeah, actually, I think the,
Okay, that
the
was
fact
worth,
we're
that was
involving
worth pounding out for sure.
DPW and fire will actually support the desired result.
Okay, all right, that's the wording then. All right, appreciate it. So the conditions that we added are that the applicant shall design and submit, I'm sorry, I'm about to mess everything up.
The trail thing?
Yep, the condition to, that the applicant will work with the Trails Coordination Committee and the Sportsman Club to connect the subject property by trails to the school property, something along that line. Is one additional condition. And then the other one that I just read, in the interest of safety, the planning board and applicant are in agreement that the sidewalk shall be designed and constructed on the east side of the roadway if at all possible. The final plan must have the sign off of fire department, police department, and DPW.
I like it.
Okay.
I accept the friendly amendment.
For those conditions, okay. I don't even know who moved and, you moved? And who seconded?
I can't remember.
Let's
I
have a
think
second.
I seconded.
Deborah did.
I seconded.
Okay,
But we're not sure.
but we're
Deb
not
can
sure if
vote.
Deb can vote.
She can vote.
She
I
can
can
vote.
vote.
We are sure Deb can
Someone I did a little bit of research.
However, Gary cannot vote now.
vote. Gary cannot, because you were.
Well, yeah, he's
All right, so Deb has seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
All right, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
sticking with us through that.
Thank you very much.
You gained 2 new members through that entire thing. So that's-
You need to vote to close the public hearing.
See you again.
Yes, thank you. And I'll entertain a motion to close that public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain as well.
All right. We have a new public hearing for the preliminary subdivision plan for Leonard Street, Box Mill Road. So I'll invite that applicant to come forward. kindly take a minute to introduce yourself and then your proposed plan.
My name is Dave Maspenock, Rick Barbera.
Is this new material you're passing around?
First off, my left ear was infected, so I'm not going to be able to hear too well.
Is this new material that you're passing around?
Yes.
Is it new
I
besides?
got a letter from town council copy on Friday. I was just able to put this together today. My attorney wasn't able to make it. It's not real, no. It's been in the town's hands for quite some time.
So just for the record, it's new to this, this public hearing, just to be clear.
Correct.
Yep. So I'm just gonna say for the benefit of everybody, that we entertain material that is submitted by the deadline. You can certainly speak to this.
Okay.
But we'll need to make sure that we have the opportunity for the public to see it, read it, and we have a chance to digest it and interact with it again.
Okay, perfect.
To be clear through the chair, I can't even read this. It's blurry and small, tiny type, and
We're not discussing this
we're
anymore.
not even going to discuss it. So, okay, just want to be clear about that.
Okay, go ahead.
My name's Richard Barbieri. I built Box Mill Road. I have this a piece of property up there, Tom Terry's property. You have it under agreement, okay? I intend to try and build 2 lots up there, lots number 5 and 6 on the parcel, okay? You have deeded right-of-way Exhibit A, which shows, let me get this thing on, which the first thing it shows,
That might not show up on a TV.
it's over here. It shows this old right-of-way going down to the railroad bed. That's a deed that you really can't read.
Oh, yeah, Leonard Street.
Yeah, that one there, okay?
Yep.
Then the second thing we have the deed to McBride's, which if you turn that over, the McBride property in 1961, an approval not required, and this deed references the right-of-way on both sides, the old right-of-way and the old right-of-way, showing that it did have a right-of-way on both sides. The last deed you have is a deed into Terry, which references this old right-of-way.
Are you walking us through the materials you just handed us?
No, this is what you have up there.
Okay.
The writing is there, but what I'm saying is, the Terry deed up here, this is the old right-of-way going to it. And that's a copy of the deed that explains it. Now, what I'm trying to do,
Okay.
here is to construct 2 driveways off of Box Mill instead of using this old right-of-way and building a subdivision. It would actually be, this was an approval not required, it wasn't a subdivision when I did Box Mill. This would be the same thing. But what I'm trying to show you is that we have rights with this old right-of-way. On the Terry deed, it's called the lane. But that's a piece of property that's, it's defined. The town records have historically and currently identified a space as a deed of right-of-way, a non-owned, non-identified separate parcel, completely outside the lot boundaries of Terry's property. Basically, what I'm trying to do is just put 2 driveways off of Box Mill Road that's there. If I was to construct this road, I'd have to put 2 catch basins down here, and the topography rises, so there'd be a big cut here, and I'd have to put a retention area. If you can turn that over so I can show them exactly. The retention area, it's there now for Box Mill is here. I would have to put it approximately down here. What my intention is to give this 9 acres to the town of Hopkinton. And that would work if they let me put these 2 driveways here. It's a last look. First off, there's hardly any water here now because when I did Box Mill, I took all the water that was coming from here. It all pitches this way. It goes into an area here, an area here, goes into another area here, comes down here and goes into a 4-bay, then into a big retention area. That took the majority of all that water. So this has very little bit of water now. If I do just the 2 driveways in the houses, I can just put a small basin right in that backyard. Require no other construction. These two driveways meet the fire department radius for turning into.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah, the two drawings are upside
Different.
down from each other, so
If I could shed some light on it. This is the submitted material, right?
Yeah.
Planning board. Box Mill subdivision is this highlighted green area here. Okay, this is the limit of Box Mill subdivision. Goes all the way out to the town property, goes all the way back. Consisted of 3 lots. Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3. Lot 4 is the remaining land of the 9 acres. Tom Terry piece that Rick has an option on is this purple piece right here. Okay? That's 1.3 acres.
Yep.
What Rick is looking to do is create Lot 5, create Lot 6, and Box Mill Road is this road right here in brown.
Yep.
He's trying to eliminate doing this, a typical road just like he did for Box Mill Road. Having frontage off of the Terry land, what we call Terry Path, access to these 2 lots would come from the already built Box Mill Road through way of easements and property that Rick already owns. So we're looking to have frontage off of the street, 33,168, and a 33,000 lot here with frontage and access off of Box Mill Road.
So can I elaborate on that a little bit from the letter from the attorney?
Go
Because
ahead.
they said that that frontage cannot be used if it's not an existing street. However, I do like this plan, and I think we've talked about this a while ago, and I guess it'd probably come down to like what waivers would we need to be looking at? I mean, it seems reasonable, right?
I disagree.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I'd like to know, like, what are we not following here?
You'd be waiving the construction of the road, actually.
What's that?
You'd be waiving the construction of the road.
They would
Why
require
don't you
waivers from
have
the
the
entire
lot
road.
frontage? Remind us again why you don't have the lot frontage on Box Mill.
right, why can't you have frontage?
We believe we do have frontage in Boxville. This is a long process. We were sent to the zoning board. 2 weeks before we got to the zoning board, my attorney was here on another matter. The chairman brought him outside and said, "You're at the wrong place, you have frontage, you have to get driveway access." Through talking to numerous people, they said, "No, you can't have just driveway access, you have to have the road waived, the construction of the road waived." I agree with you. I built numerous times on paper roads where I just put a driveway in, the frontage was in on a paper road. But the building department is, or whoever is not, I don't want to single anyone out, they're not agreeing that I can just modify it, Box Mill Road, and add 2 driveways and use that frontage.
So you don't have frontage on Box Mill for some reason?
I don't have frontage on Box Mill for these 2 lots, no.
That's why.
There is some frontage on Box Mill lot, but it's broken up by that private way, which I don't know.
Which private way, sorry?
That's the Terry Path?
Oh, you mean
Is that the paper street you mean?
Yes, that would be this piece here, that yellow strip.
Right, but you own everything else, but because...
I own everything up to it. I actually believe I own to the center of that, because when it's a paper road, each person owns to the center of it.
Through the chair, the McBride's portion of Leonard Street is a private way, and that has never changed. And everything you just explained right now hasn't changed that. Can you show us where the McBride's home, Mr. McBride's here, can you show us where his home is on your plans? Because it seems like you're kind of
That's right here.
overlooking.
Right, if this road was to be built, it would go right next to his house.
It's really hard to see that. Can you guys point out?
Yeah, there
There
we
it is
go.
right there.
Where is it?
To the west of the
Yeah.
Terry Path, that's
Yeah.
George's home right there. Yep.
And that part of Leonard Street is private,
Yeah, that's the old right-of-way, correct.
but it's a private road, that section of Leonard Street.
Correct, just like the Terry Path is a private way, paper road, whatever you want to call it. But the old right-of-way gives me rights to that. I can go down there and improve it and put the road in.
But Leonard Street is basically a driveway for Mr. McBride and the home down the street that's also another McBride family. So if you were to want to build, say, in my driveway, which is pretty long,
Yeah.
you're saying you could do that? I mean, I don't
Oh,
understand.
you'd be upset, but that driveway isn't his property. That's the road, the paper road.
But it's a private way.
Correct, but I have rights to that private way. Actually,
I don't understand how you have rights to the
Tom
private
Terry
way.
has the rights to that private.
Written in the deed.
It's a paper
Through
road.
Tom Terry.
Right, Tom Terry has those rights, right. I don't think, I mean, I can't speak for the Brides here, but I can't imagine they'd want the road there instead of the driveway or box mill, but maybe you can ask them.
So through the chair, I think he's not proposing that. He's proposing off of.
Right.
So, I mean, it might be a mute.
But the way I'm saying it is like, I have this, so I can do this, but you don't have this and you can't do that.
Hold on one second. So, I'm not sure that, there seems to be a question that has to be answered. Like, you went to the Board of Appeals, and then they sent you away.
I didn't go before him 2 weeks before the hearing. The chairman took my lawyer out in the hall, well, during break or something. It was Jerry Efferman, and he said, Jerry, you're at the wrong place. You know, according to him, you have the frontage, but you have to go to planning board just to get, Boxman Road said 3 lots to get that modified. But then when we talked.
So you know that we have feedback from the town attorney.
Correct, I saw their feedback.
That you do have to go to the Board of Appeals.
Well.
So that's, I know, and I apologize for that.
You see, I would I have to disagree with that because I built so many times on private ways where sometimes they just let you put a driveway in. They call it frontage. It's frontage on a private way, which should constitute frontage. I mean, I read his letter, I just disagree with it.
And I'm not actually gonna entertain an argument with you about that.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying.
We are bound to follow our attorney's advice, so I get.
Okay, but you understand
I get the
where I am.
challenge.
Actually, I can,
First of all, let me just let the principal planner walk us through his feedback first. We have a process that we have wandered far and afield from.
So I had 2 comments, and I think one of them mirrored town council's opinion that this technically doesn't have frontage on a constructed way. There's a definition in Hopkinton zoning bylaw, linear extent of a lot measured along the street front. Everyone knows it, I'm not gonna read it. But it has to be laid out and constructed to be in conformance with that. The other piece of this is that the town actually does have a process for a situation like this, where you have lots within a subdivision that don't have frontage. They can be granted a frontage waiver by the planning board. However, in that section of the bylaw, it says before that applicant comes before the planning board for a frontage waiver, they should go before the Board of Appeals to get a variance for that frontage.
Which is exactly what town council is.
Exactly. And so this, and even looking at it the way that it's drawn out there, sorry, Steph, this may be an amendment to the Box Mill subdivision because they're using land within the Box Mill subdivision, specifically Lot 6. So therefore, if they wanted to add these lots, they could amend the subdivision plan, get the frontage waiver from the planning board and the variance from the Board of Appeals and do this as that, rather than doing an entire preliminary subdivision and then a definitive subdivision. But that's not the process before us.
Okay, so there is a process in front of it that is possible.
I understand that.
So Leonard Street is a dead-end street, and
I don't want to say you people tell me the right thing or the wrong thing, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't know who's right. But when we paid for everything, we were going before the zoning board. The chairman, we paid for everything. We're on the agenda for the zoning board. All the neighbors were notified like a year ago. And they said, no, you don't belong here. All you have to do is go to planning board. I'm not trying to argue with anyone. I'm just being pushed both ways.
I know, I got it.
can I ask about the dead ends?
Yes.
So Leonard Street is a dead end, and Box Mill is a dead end. Are we running into the problem of not allowing dead ends off of dead ends? I thought we had a rule that cul-de-sacs couldn't have other cul-de-sacs.
That's already gone by, though. This is already, Box Mill's already built.
Okay.
Right, so basically they're requesting that Terry Path be approved as a road but not constructed because it would be granted waivers for all road construction.
But how can we have a cul-de-sac off of an already a dead end?
We had this,
Wouldn't technically be a cul-de-sac.
if I can interrupt, we had this when we did Box Mill, and it turned out that because it was already paper road, the town was forced to let it be constructed, not as a subdivision, as an approval not required.
And to be fair, Box Mill was still paved in like the 19-somethings and had fallen into disrepair, but there's still some pavement along it. that supported your argument.
Yeah.
On Terry Way, it's a driveway. I mean,
Correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, I just have a question about the lots that you have. Do you own this portion,
Yes,
and you own this portion as well?
yes.
Or have rights to it, yeah. So, but you're saying that it doesn't have frontage along Box Mill
Well,
because
actually,
this
right.
cuts through it.
Correct.
And so you have this and this, but not that part, right there, that you don't own.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Yep.
That's the only reason. Otherwise, you would have frontage on Box Mill?
Enough for one lot.
Yeah.
If that,
Enough for one lot?
right, if that road or paper road or way or right of way, whatever we want to call it, wasn't there, and Tom, Terry, and I put our lots together, I believe we would have frontage for one lot off of Box Mill.
One lot, not two.
No. But it has, off of that Terry path, if we want to call it, it has two conforming lots.
But you can't have frontage on it.
No, I'm not counting, I'm saying, you know, if you counted that as frontage, it's two conforming
But we-
lots.
we
Right,
can't
no, I
count
understand that, right. But I'm just saying for her,
So
right,
it doesn't matter.
yep.
So how much, sorry, through the chair, how much are you off by frontage? Like, what's your total frontage on Box Mill with those two lots?
The one that would service the top lot, lot 6, lot 5, has like 101 foot of frontage. It's in an RA zone, so that would be in conformance.
What about the lot 6?
Lot 6,
That's
the
not
frontage would have to come off that paper street.
No, sorry. The question is, how much frontage do you have on Box Mill?
None for that.
Not enough.
Quote frontage. How long is that?
It's about approximately 160. I understand.
It seems like
So Rick
160 plus
doesn't- Rick
100.
doesn't
I don't own
lot
that
yet.
piece.
Doesn't own what?
Rick doesn't own that one you just asked about. That right there.
He doesn't own that?
That's lot 3 of this already built for a house on.
The part above?
So there you go.
This
I know.
lot is part of this lot.
Exactly.
That's something we
That's
didn't
why you don't
understand.
have frontage.
Those hatched areas there is house 1, 2, and 3, which
Because I had
is up
asked
on this
whether or
drawing
not you
here.
had owned that.
Same as
Okay.
this.
Right, when I sold that third house at the end of it, that Terry Road came straight down, so that, I don't know if you can point up.
So how could you get a driveway through that lot if you don't know?
If you keep coming down with that, okay, that intersection point right here, if you can lower it a little more, no, lower.
Lower?
All right, go to the right. That road, not that road, but my land went straight down, okay? I gave, right, it went straight down there. I came here, I broke off like a 30-foot piece, and I gave it to Lot 3, and in return, they gave me exclusive rights to that property that I'd be crossing, which is, it's not even part of the, it's so far away from them, it's nothing they would use
So
anyways.
you have an easement?
Correct.
Correct. I actually have exclusive rights to it, not just an easement. I mean, they basically couldn't even go on that property. But again, like I said, they picked up 30 feet on their side yard where the basement walked down. It was good for both of us.
Through the chair, it would have been a lot easier on us if you had that whole property up front.
All right, so
Okay, let's go around the table. Do you have any questions, initial questions?
I'm not sure what is before us that is to vote on. We have a letter from our town council that we can't move forward with it, so I don't have anything I can move forward with.
No questions.
Rob, Neil, same?
No questions.
I was just going to mention the drainage issues and water issues that we've seen. We've walked there, and there are pictures in the packet, but otherwise, we can't move forward, yeah.
I have no further questions right now.
Okay, so let me, at this point, just invite any members of the public who have come to speak on this. Yep.
So we're the McBrides, and that path that he's mentioning literally is a strip of grass that we have mowed since the house that we built, which was in the 60s. It's always been just an area that's mowed. For us, when he built Box Mill, we had numerous conversations, we walked, and we have a water impact anyway, and he assured us that there would be no more water, and I submitted pictures to the town of literally running water. It's like a stream coming from Box Mill through that Terry portion that he is now intending, that's my yard. And I have a couple of other ones that are the same, that there's a huge, my cellar now is flooded. That little area that he's talking about, that's the lane, most of the time is flooded. And I feel like if I try to sell my property and I have this, whatever it is that's supposed to be between my house and the house next door, how do I sell my property to satisfy whoever is gonna lend somebody money to buy that with whatever this road is? I don't object to him putting houses on Box Mill at all, but I feel like he should get his frontage from Box Mill and put the houses, doesn't bother me if he buys Terry land, but I don't think the frontage should come from something that then didn't exist before and now exists now for him to buy more land. It's not like he has a burden of land that he can't use that he already owns. This is land that he wants to purchase and do something else with. And when the Box Mill, I'm gonna sit down if you don't mind, subdivision went in, we were assured that it would be 3 houses. Now suddenly it's turning into 5 houses on Box Mill, not 3. So I thought that before Box Mill was a dead issue, but I understand that now he's promoting it as a new subdivision. And I do think that the board should at least consider the impact to abutters that have been here.
100%.
I agree. Could I respond to that just briefly?
I'm sorry.
Could I respond to that just briefly, the water problem?
Sure.
The picture you're seeing with the water, turn it on this way. Her house is here. You're seeing this area here, okay? But you the facts are the facts. This retention area, it's all sloped away from it, keeps all this water down this way. That water she's getting, like I said, this all pitches up. All this water is coming to her backyard. It's not from Box Mill Road, though. Box Mill Road has, if you go out there, you see this is a big slope. It all comes into this retention area. There's a pipe that comes out of it, goes down to this manhole, goes down to that retention.
Where do you suggest that it is coming from?
For her?
Oh, where do you suggest it? We've walked
Okay.
that property. We've watched
Okay,
it
well,
come streaming
if I was to
down
build these.
from the general direction of Box
No,
Mill.
I see the picture, I know what's there. We did test holes here and everything. If I was to do just the driveways, this retention area would encapsulate all of that water. It would I know nobody wants to believe it that lives there, but it would actually help out that situation. But that's a pre-existing situation from this land here. It's not from Box Mill. If anything, and I know no one wants to hear it, we took all this water. And it all goes this way and down this way into the catch basin.
So I think that so we're in a position where we agree that we don't have a go-forward position here. There's a process in place that you need to exercise, and I appreciate your frustration that you got turned away from it.
Right.
And you need to go back to it.
Right.
But we are gonna, when it comes back to us, we're gonna wanna see how that water problem is being addressed,
Like I said,
separately from putting in new driveways. Right.
Like I said, we've already tested this. We already dug test holes, and that catches all that water we pitch into this.
I'm sorry, can I speak through the chair? That side of the stone wall is McBride's property, and the other side of the stone wall looks like it's...
That's this stone wall.
Yeah, that's a wetland, and you're talking about building in a wetland.
It's not a wetland, it's just a heavy
It's
rainstorm.
this damage that's happened?
Yeah, it's just a heavy rainstorm. Like I said, we've tested in there.
You don't know where it came from?
It comes from right up here, all this water here.
So you're responsible?
What's that?
Are you saying you're responsible?
Am I? No, that's not my property, that's the Terry property. That water's been there, I don't know, since the beginning of time. I mean, it's a very wet area. Like I said, if you take a look at the size of these retention areas we had to do a lot to hold all that water in there. But everything coming off of that gets caught in here.
Let me just ask if there's anybody else that came to speak on this? Yes. All right, who's been picking on the fire chief as he limps up here?
I'm not exactly sure where we are in the process in our development and whatever, so I'll just give you some comments and then kind of see whether they fit it or not.
We're not exactly sure who the chief's name.
Just observations, the closest fire hydrant is at the Grove Street, Leonard Street corner. So I know that Box Mill was here before my tenure, but I'm just gonna walk you through what I see as a fire chief. Is that, so I have to take a supply line down Leonard Street. I'm doing quite a bit of work with the town, trying to determine how you can tell the width of and any chance to improve Leonard Street. I don't have a good answer for you yet, but it creates the way the public parks there, and not knowing the width of it starts the beginning of what causes me some worries getting into either Box Mill or other areas beyond Box Mill. The distances, I just looked on the maps and the proposals to get to the end of Box Mill or to get to the end of the other road that's on the plan is we're talking about 950 feet. So for me, it's a little over 1,000 feet of hose. In town, we try to not exceed 500 feet. So that's just a condition that we start to face. As I get into I think the question came up, this is the extension of a dead-end road, and so for me, that's a challenge. I actually tried to take the ladder truck tonight into Box Mill just to get a little test and see how it went, just so I could have a feel. With the swing into Box Mill was fine. We got to the cul-de-sac. There was a car parked in the cul-de-sac, which made it so that we couldn't do a turnaround in it. So then we have to do certain maneuvers to get out of it. The challenge with that is its availability, having to back up a large piece of equipment in the dark. It's just not things we try to do when it's not an A&R, and it's something we have some control over. Entering into Leonard Street, again, I don't know if that fits in for your work, but Leonard Street itself, if somebody parks on the side, which is happening on the right, I'm not sure whose control it is. I'm trying to talk to the town about it. Just getting to these areas becomes a problem. Just in the risk assessment, I've talked to the planning board in general. The more houses you add to these areas, a dead end, in the way we have written the bylaws, it adds risk. So somewhere in here, we're going past the design level of risk if it's not A&R. Fire water, I said, additional houses, and I think those are my main points right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You have to come forward to the mic, sir. Introduce yourself and your address, please.
Hi, Chris Masters, 4 McDermott Lane. I'm not in a butter. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I want to buy one of the proposed lots, and I'm just kind of curious to wrap my head around it. I think to kind of summarize what I've heard tonight is I know there's a procedural problem. I get that. And if I understand McBride's, there's no objection to the 2 houses being built, just using the existing Box Mill Road. Is that correct?
Correct. I don't mind what he does up there.
We actually can't have that going on.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, well, I guess that answers my question. So to me, it makes sense, or it doesn't make sense to put the road next to their house. It sounds like that doesn't make sense to a lot of people here. It does make sense to put the driveways off the existing Box Mill, but there's just a procedural process that needs to be followed. Do I understand it?
So I think, and everybody around the table will clamor to correct me if I'm wrong, which I appreciate, honestly. I think that we are halfway there. I think that there's a procedure that has to be exercised, and I think that we have discovered tonight in our conversations that there is not adequate frontage available for 2 lots off of Box Mill.
Can I add on to that?
Hold on.
Because of that.
Because there isn't the length of the road, there isn't adequate frontage for 2 lots. So I think there's a bigger challenge for the developer.
Okay, in addition to getting the variance, I don't know the term.
Yep, the procedural.
So there's the procedure, and let's just say the procedure goes Rick's way.
Yes.
And he gets the variance.
Yes.
Then the next question would be, even on Box Mill, if this board would allow the 2 driveways. Am I understanding what you're saying?
Yes, yes, right.
Okay.
But I think that, all things being equal, we would rather that than carving out a whole different road. A different complicating factor too is the one that Amy brought up first and the fire chief just highlighted, and that's the length of what is essentially a cul-de-sac, a dead-end road.
Yeah, I live at a dead end now, and there's 1,000 times more space there, but,
It actually, yeah.
So I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Can I just
And
add
the
on to
water.
your answer?
The water issue.
And the
The
water
water
issue.
issue.
Yes,
That's what I
thank you.
was
Yes, and the water issue as
So
well.
then you make sure he understands that, please.
Yeah, there's also a concern with the drainage, the water issue and the water impact. That has to be resolved.
That's an engineering issue, right?
It sure is.
All right, we good?
Yes, so.
I got it.
So what is the procedure for us? What do you recommend? Would you withdraw and,
If he is inclined to withdraw, that would be.
Yeah, just withdraw it, and I'll talk to the attorneys, and, I don't know, talk to the zoning board chairman before I file again or something, because I don't want to file and him tell me I can't go there again.
So if I just may clarify that,
Yeah.
I understand you're talking to the zoning board chair, but it would be helpful to the board to actually have a written determination from the zoning board as to why they're telling you that you shouldn't go before the board. Just having us hear from you say that he told you this, I don't think it's helpful for the planning board to make a decision.
Maybe they'll give us that, but they wouldn't back then. I mean, but this thing, I waited 9 months for town council to reply to a letter that they never replied to. I had a meeting last July, I think you were at, with the town manager, because I was so frustrated, because I couldn't get an answer from the town council. They assured me he'd get back to us. He never did. Now, when I submitted this Friday, I got a letter from town council. That's how long I waited. I don't know if you have that letter. You must have, because you were at the meeting in July, right?
Could we write a letter to zoning board? No?
Remember the meeting in July, the letter to town council?
that is not what
You
I.
must have a copy of that, right?
Somewhere in the files.
Yeah, they never replied to that. Right? I know, that's what I'm saying.
So we feel your frustration and we share it, all right? Because we would really appreciate if none of this had happened as well, because it hangs us up too, and we don't want to be any part of just
Yeah.
slowing you down for no good reason. But John is absolutely right. If for some reason the Board of Appeals legitimately decides that you do not need to go before them, there has to be some determination by the board. It can't just be, it just can't be the chairman, first of all, and it can't be just a conversation.
All right, so I'll withdraw this and figure out my next step.
All right.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Sorry, just one comment,
Yep,
real quick. And I don't know if this is the place or not, but when this comes, assuming this comes back to us, can we just make sure that the minutes from the previous box mill approval are included in the packet?
that's a really good point.
'Cause I just want to go back and review
Yeah.
what was proposed and what was agreed to then.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Withdraw without, allow for the withdrawal without prejudice.
Withdraw without prejudice.
So moved.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. I don't want anybody to get all kinds of scared and riled up. Oh, first of all, how did the Lady Hillers do?
They lost.
What game, what?
Basketball.
What level though?
Varsity.
No, but I mean, was it like playoffs or?
First round playoff.
First round of playoffs?
They lost to Wayland.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
Hopefully we'll get that water issue fixed.
Hard fought match,
Yeah,
but
did they,
we're not successful.
well, I'm glad they had the opportunity.
Yes.
And I'm glad they played hard, right?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. All right.
Your daughter's what year?
Sophomore.
So, unless anybody wants to hang out longer, we could conclude the proceedings.
I want to hang out.
Are there any of the administrative memos that we wanted to discuss? We had a February 4th from Eversource to.
Oh, yeah.
So
the firefighting.
those I just put in the folder so you can review them. I can add them to the next agenda.
Okay, yeah.
They're not on the agenda because we got them kind of late.
Can I ask an administrative question? Did we ever find out if there's gonna be sidewalks on the town meeting?
I don't believe there are, but I didn't actually ask DPW. I will ask them.
And we're
Was there
gonna
a
get
placeholder, or?
Don't know.
and we're gonna get an update. We've had a pretty good return, which you may already know.
289?
And,
290.
294.
Regarding town meeting, I still haven't seen a notice about the zoning hearing. We have a date, right?
It's been published. Jane actually got mailed the notice. All the abutters received it. It's been put in the media.
So I'm supposed to get the media notices, but I didn't get the notices on that one.
Josh,
So,
the IT person said he sent it out to everybody.
yeah, so I told Connor I didn't get a thing, and he looked, and I guess we're not on the list anymore for EHOP. But I know, but there's also this public Google group called the Hop Notices, and it's not on that either. So I really think it's important that it be publicized, especially there's going to be a lot of chatter about the
100%.
solar overlay particularly, I think. Some of the others are less controversial. So I haven't seen it on Hop News or any place like that. Has anyone?
I'll check with Josh.
Or could you send it to
out.
us at least? Or-
Yeah.
Okay, that would be good. Yeah, well,
A little bit, at least.
yeah. What about the Legacy Farms Road, which is always on our agenda, and we have an updated cost assessment or approval?
So, yep. So that is still before the select board, so they make the first move, and basically the only role that the planning board serves now before town meeting is to make a recommendation on the acceptance.
Right.
So select board will do what they need to do and then refer it back to the planning board. They haven't done that yet.
So my question is about the bond. They set the bond with them on that, or will the planning board does?
That'll be the planning board. So the planning board will still have to go through this subdivision review process for the road.
Yeah.
And that bond will come into play then.
Right, and once again, what is the timing that we need to do the review process
That can be done after town meeting.
after town meeting?
The road can be accepted, and then the planning board can review the road.
All right, so there's no impediment for the planning board process in the timing leading up to town meeting?
so everything that has to be done before town meeting is done, is that right?
So the only thing that needs to be done is select board needs to review, refer it back to the planning board makes a recommendation.
So
So
that
we need to make a recommendation. I
That can be
guess.
done.
Because the
the
plan
meeting
has
before
been
the town meeting.
submitted, what are they're reviewing the question? What is their review
I don't know if they're
process?
reviewing anything at this point. It may just not be on the agenda. I'd have to check where it stands on that. They basically review the plan to make sure it meets all the criteria to be accepted. And then I believe town council probably weighs in before they make any movement on that. And then they'll refer to the planning board before a final decision. Planning board will make a recommendation, and then they'll recommend whatever they recommend for town meeting.
I remember leading up to special town meeting, there was some timeline that was, we couldn't meet.
That was to get the plan submitted.
To get the
So
plan
they had,
submitted.
yeah, so
They've
they
been
hadn't
submitted
planned,
now.
they hadn't submitted the plan at
Right,
that point. So
right.
now basically they've submitted the plan, so now the select board just needs to refer it back to the planning board. What the problem was at the special town meeting is they had to submit the plan by a certain time for the select board to have it on their agenda and then refer it back to the planning board to then get back to the select
Right,
board.
right.
There wasn't enough time to do
So
that.
that's the only thing, and they have the plan. When did the plan get submitted?
I want to say January 28th.
January 28th. So plenty of time for the select board to consider it before town meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a possibility we can find out when they're gonna have it on their agenda?
And I think this will be a little controversial perhaps at town meeting, and the more we can have done before, even though you're saying we could do it after, the more we can get done before town meeting would be better.
The more we get done ahead of time, the better, obviously. I hope it's not controversial, but. Anything else that is on our agenda that people want to speak to?
So not to open a can of worms, but
Go ahead.
the traffic light at
Yeah.
Legacy Farms Road North and East Main Street
Yep.
is currently moving forward. I doubt they're gonna get it done by the deadline, considering we just got notice from Roy that the base of the lights has a 5-month lead. It was either one base with a 5-month lead time or a base with an 8.5-month lead time. He's going with the one with the 5-month lead time, but that was last week, so I doubt they're gonna get it done by March. At that point, there's really nothing in the decision that says there's anything enforceable, I guess they could be considered not complying with the conditions if you want to go that route. But they are moving forward, and there has been back and forth, and a lot of this time has been taken up just by reviews and Beta trying to, the one thing that was a holdup is the traffic signal, the illuminated traffic signal coming up before the traffic signal to allow it to notify people that the signal is red when it's red. And we finally worked through that. They went with Beta's recommendation, and now they're moving forward with ordering all the parts.
So we knew that the pieces had a long lead time. That was part of the discussion. I'm wondering why it's holding us up at this point, because he couldn't order them until the design was, yeah.
So,
I think it was a manufacturing process.
Yeah, but we knew this months ago, right? So if they had been ordered months ago, they'd be on their way, right?
right, so not to defend that part, because I think that makes sense, but what he had talked about was the mast arms took a certain amount of time. And what he was bringing up before us last week was the bases of the lights.
Well, the mast arms are hardly any use without the bases.
Correct. He probably could install the mast arms without the bases and then maybe put them, I don't know how it works, but I'm just, like I said, not an excuse.
I'm just thinking this is,
Not an
yeah,
excuse.
you're not responsible for this. I'm just thinking that, if somebody was really intent on meeting a deadline to put in a traffic light, these are some things that could have been taken into consideration.
Ask a question. Do you by chance know if Mr. McDowell is current on his payments to the town?
I don't believe he is, but I'm not, unless something came in the last month or so.
I don't think that is on our agenda, or it's necessarily I don't mind the question, by the way. So I also don't necessarily know that it's our purview, although it's an interesting piece of information to have.
I agree.
I will just point out, though, that it's going to be brought up at town meeting when we're discussing anything related to legacy.
100%
So getting
is.
as much done and wrapped up would be better, including the payments.
What about, I know something went around about potentially renegotiating the host or studying the impact that pertains to the host community agreement. Was there any update on that? Or should we put that on the?
No, I think it's just, we're talking about, and I'm tangentially involved, just talking about possible analysis. But
What kind of analysis to do?
right, and if it would be beneficial, I believe growth study committee might be involved, or at
Why
least
don't
discuss.
we should have a clump of legacy farms things. We have most of them. Why don't we have that analysis on the agenda to be discussed at any time, so that we can keep track of that as we're moving these pieces around.
Can I ask another Legacy Farms question?
And, yeah, one second, and I think Amy and Gary are totally on point that at town meeting, anything we try to accomplish, there are gonna be questions that center around all of these things.
Just quick statement, correct me if I'm wrong, but Osmond is on hold until further notice, correct? Is that, what did we vote for that Ken Weismantel said the zoning, or was it garden apartments? Something?
Garden apartments.
Garden apartments, not Osmond? Okay, it was garden apartments?
Garden apartments,
Okay.
there's no more garden apartments
By law,
until
yeah.
something happens.
Right, that's what I was thinking of. Thanks.
I have a question. It's on the agenda. Do you have any additional information, John, about the West Main Street, Lumber Street intersection?
No, I've talked to Dave, and he, again, doesn't know what he wants to present, so I've kind of just left it at this point, but I can follow up again and see if there's.
Present to us, you mean?
Correct.
This is Dave.
Del Toro.
When is All Town going to start? Any ideas?
Sorry?
The new gas station.
Cliff's house?
Maybe they'll forget about it. Maybe they won't even have to do it. Oh my God, it's just the thing this town needs. I remember you saying that, Dave, and I thought to
Hopkinton, it
myself.
rings a bell. Are we supposed to do something in Hopkinton?
I have another agenda question. I don't know, this is a question for Amy, but is there anything, would it be worth adding the growth study update onto the agenda for the next
Sure.
couple of meetings?
Yeah, I don't know why not.
And maybe it could be just once a month if if we have a busy meeting, we could skip it or something.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I think, again, especially in terms of, in preparation for town meeting, I think that's something that
I
is worth
agree.
all of us being well informed
Sure.
on.
I agree.
next growth study is coming
It's
up?
actually this week, Wednesday, yeah. And the fire and police are gonna come to speak to us, and then we're gonna, I just wrote the agenda yesterday, I'm trying to remember what else is on the agenda. Well, we have a town meeting placeholder articles, so.
Are you guys gonna kick anybody out of town? Like, I don't have to worry, I'm gonna get kicked out, do I?
You always have to worry about that. And the growth study committee plans to present as well at town meeting, to give a little update on what is going, which I think it makes a great deal of sense.
Already have solar panels in March.
All right.
So, I was gonna stay, but I have to go.
Can I move to adjourn?
Yeah, you know what, think, any future agenda items, since we have a few minutes, does anybody want to put anything on the agenda coming up?
We talked about the highway overpass and impacting Fruit Street.
Yep.
Do we need to track that? Do we have a timeline? Do we know when the road's gonna be
Which
closed?
one are you talking about, the intersection?
Is that the 495-90 intersection?
Yeah, the 495-90 and the impact to Fruit Street, like.
But before that, there's the bridge
So
replacement.
I just emailed John tonight about
Southborough.
that.
Good. What did you?
I asked him if he can get us the schedule of the bridge over the railroad tracks on Fruit Street.
That's happening first?
Start, yeah, the start and stop, and also if there's any plans to close the street.
So they're not planning on closing the street, they're planning on having a signal and one lane open at all times.
Okay.
Did that bridge work, the first project?
I want to say it's going to last about 2 years. I don't know when it's going to start, though.
Mercy.
They have a website, but I don't see anything coming up.
For the bridge, or not?
For the
You're looking at the
495-90.
Single lane should be okay, because it's, everybody goes one way into Framingham, Boston, the morning, and then night they come back, so it should be fine.
And they're all timed, they work pretty well, actually,
What's that?
those traffic
Oh,
times.
the construction ones?
You know what, I'm sure it's gonna be great. I have every confidence and it's gonna be thrilled.
So now I'm a little concerned, because if it was a manual thing by person, I thought it
No,
would work.
no,
but
it's automatic,
It
and
may
it's
not
timed,
work. They don't get the time.
It's gonna
right?
be awesome. I'm not worried.
Yeah, you and me.
As it relates to just town meeting, and the growth study committee, and the big thing is gonna be, impact the planning board has on the growth of the town and school budgets. School budgets is gonna dominate, town meeting, and the impact the planning board can have on proactively trying to reflect the growth or manage the growth. So any discussion we wanna have about that in this meeting as opposed to just the growth, or maybe the growth study update is enough. But, I don't see any way that the town meeting that isn't the number one topic, so.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that the growth study committee is the place is the mechanism we have chosen to utilize to address it, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be prepared to speak to it as we're going forward.
No, I've been trying to go to their meetings, and they're very interesting. And I think they've been doing a really good job of incorporating DPW and infrastructure analysis, and I thought the last meeting was very, very interesting. And traffic, so I think they're doing a really good job incorporating not only the schools, but trying to incorporate the total package.
I wish we had a magic solution, which we don't, of course.
And it's turning out
which
to
is-
be a very complicated,
yeah.
complex issue. And I give them a lot of credit for taking this on.
And I think some of that, it'll be interesting to hear what the town decides as far as impact study and analysis as well.
Oh, is that something they're thinking about doing before town meeting?
I
or
don't know. I don't know the timeline for that, and I don't know if
Might be
before
longer.
town meeting you get approved or anything like
And
that.
I think
Okay.
also tonight, for anybody interested around the table, or if they're still watching at home, the school is presenting
Something tonight, I think.
something tonight about the results of their analysis, their study on enrollment, so.
Can we maybe add one agenda item for the future for the length of cul-de-sacs for open space? Just to, because just to give somebody some background, for traditional development, it's 300 feet, but for open space, it's 1,000 feet, so maybe we could at least have a discussion how people feel about that.
Yeah,
So that
and
would
that
be-
would
that'd be for
ultimately
Zach
be a
to look
Zach,
at, maybe?
Zach
Yeah,
question, but we
exactly.
could, yeah.
But we can discuss it first, right?
To just add to that point, like more of a general, I'd like to expand it to, like, open space developments have some leeway, well, leeway's the wrong word, but less stringent zoning
There's
requirements.
trade-offs, yeah.
There's trade-offs, and sometimes it results in negative plans, but, from my opinion, negative plans put before us. And I think we should be, like, take a proactive stance, like, looking forward, and we might not get it done right away, but over the course of 2020, I think we could make headway and present that, give that information to Zach, and start that process of, like, an open space development, like, yes, there's the trade-offs, but when you look at this, compare various plans, some of the trade-offs are not, from my opinion, not worth it.
Yeah, no, I know, we struggled with that one pretty mightily on Whisper Way, which could be a really cute little development, and they were caught up in a lot of challenges.
It was interesting because they had the cul-de-sac, and then I thought we kind of convinced them to go with the U-shaped road, and then they completely bailed out on that.
It's not, you know, as properties get more complex, the ones that are left to develop get more complex, it probably makes a lot of sense, and I don't know what I don't know what the mechanism is to build in some kind of flexibility that doesn't also tie your hands in ways that you aren't interested in too.
Yeah, because, like, just reflecting back.
We probably shouldn't be
It's not on
discussing
the
this because it's
agenda.
not on the agenda. We can add it to a
For
future
future
agenda,
agenda.
but it's now becoming a discussion, and I don't think that's appropriate.
There you go.
I'm wondering if we can add the open space subdivision bylaws to our agenda for the future.
Yeah.
As a discussion item, because leave it at that.
Would that be something more appropriate to be before Zach initially and have planning board members attend that meeting?
I think it would be for sure.
No?
I think it's our purview as planning board to top up planning.
Yeah, I think we should have an agreement how we feel about it before we present it to Zach, is my opinion.
So just a brief discussion, then send it to Zach, is that what?
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
take, you know, either we want to.
That's fine,
Either
yeah.
move forward with change or don't move forward with
Because,
change.
because a lot of times at ZAC, we discuss, you know, is planning board interested in this issue, you know, and that kind of thing. So it's really, because we're an arm of planning board, so.
And I'll just throw out one more too, and we have been completely derelict about this, and here I am owning it on TV. We really have to take a walk through that master plan and look at
The action items at the end.
the action items, and get a little serious about that. So I don't know that it happens. So you said a couple agendas coming up were wide open, John?
They tend to be, and then they fill up.
Yeah, but let's carve one out in a month's time, and notice the planning board members so we can take a personal walk through the master plan and the action items before.
And please include Dave Galtario for that discussion of West Main Street and Lumber Street.
You and I can connect after.
So Mary, just so you know, I was taking a bunch of notes as I've been going along the last 3 or 4 years about things for Zach. I have 5 of them on here, but I'm taking one off now, solar, because hopefully we'll move forward with that.
Well, I don't know if you want to take it off till we vote.
Right, no, I'm optimistic.
Would you like to share that with us? Maybe send me the list?
Yeah, send us the list.
Oh, yeah, no, we're gonna have a discussion.
Work on it. No, I mean, at ZAC.
But she could have worked on it this year.
Yeah.
I never followed through, I just pulled the trigger, you know? I
All
said,
right.
maybe the list isn't complete yet.
We have continued this discussion far longer than we needed to. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Awesome. What are the dates in March, John?
9th
Yep.
and the 23rd. The 9th is the zoning articles,
Yep.
along with other stuff, and then the 23rd is an additional zoning article, which was
Maspenock Woods.
mistakenly left off the notice, so we're noticing it separately. It's the
Not to
trash,
800
it's the condo
Yeah,
trash
half an hour.
Not to
collection.
800
It was so
people.
long.
Oh, the Caribbean.
No, the only,
Yeah.
the 800
I mean,
people is just for the solar.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I knew that.
they're gonna
So the
come
trash
back.
is a zoning